Chapter 339. Exciting night, hotel, first floor bar. Rocket and Groot sat opposite Rog, looking at Rog with a complicated look. More than 10 minutes ago, they were still fighting on the street outside, but now, they are sitting together in a bar. Rocket and Groot's strength is not bad, and they are also a little famous among the bounty hunters. However, in front of Rog, their strength is still a bit too weak. Just casually using a few ninjutsu, Rog easily defeated the two of them, making them come to the bar willingly. "Who are you? What do you want to do?" Rocket asked Rog with a vigilant look. Rog's strength is very strong, but what Rocket really cares about is not his strength, but the Mokuton he just used. Rocket is also a knowledgeable bounty hunter, but he has never met someone like Rog. Making the body grow like a tree, except for Groot, this is the first time Rocket has seen this ability in other people. And unlike Groot, Rog's Mokuton is obviously more magical. Groot is a giant flower god, his body is originally a tree, so even if his body suddenly grows, it is not a particularly strange thing. But Rog is different. Rocket is very sure that Rog is a human, a real flesh and blood body. "I said before, my name is Rog, a ninja from the earth." Rocket is curious about Rog's Mokuton, and Rog is also curious about Groot's life form. If it weren't for the current conditions, he really wants to do a detailed physical examination for Groot. And his intuition tells him that Groot is hiding the secret to further improve his Mokuton. After meeting Groot, he finally understood why Orochimaru, one of Konoha's Sannin, embarked on the path of a mad scientist. "I have no malice to you, I'm just a little interested in Groot, or Groot's race. But don't worry, I'm not some Frankenstein monster. I won't do something like dismembering people and soaking them in formalin." Rog didn't explain to them what Mokuton was, nor did he hide his interest in the Groot race. "Please don't say that you just want to make friends with us," Rocket said disdainfully. "I don't care if you believe me or not, but I do intend to make friends with you. What happened just now can only be considered as an exchange of blows leads to friendship. I still have some things to do, so I can't tell you too much for now. This is the contact code of my spaceship. If you are interested, you can contact me at any time." After that, Rog took out a small piece of metal from his pocket. The metal plate was engraved with the internal communication code of his small spaceship. As long as the distance wasn't too far, any spaceship could use this communication code to contact Rog's spaceship. To put it simply, it was a communication number between spaceships. After handing the metal plate to Groot, Rog went on to say, "If you like, you can play here for a few days. Just put the bill under my name." Because of the bet, Rog now had a considerable amount of wealth on him, which was enough for Rocket and Rocket to indulge in debauchery for a long time. After saying that, he directly left the bar. Meeting Rocket and Groot was purely an accident. But since he met them, Rog didn't mind greeting them in advance. It would be more convenient to deal with them in the future. When Rog's figure completely disappeared behind the bar, Rocket took the metal plate from Groot's hand and put it in his pocket. "He's a weirdo." "I'm Groot." Groot replied silently. After spending another exciting night with Natasha in the hotel, the collector's exaggerated maid finally appeared in front of Rog's group again. "I didn't expect you to be the one who defeated Ronin, the fourth Hokage. When I met you last time, I felt that you weren't an ordinary person." As soon as the voice fell, the white-haired collector, Tanya Divan, came in front of Rog. His fingers danced excitedly as he said in a greedy tone, "Your eyes are simply a masterpiece. When you die, please let me pay for your eyes." Rog silently stepped back, widening the distance between himself and the collector. He didn't like a male creature so close to him, especially a male creature with an unstable mental state. "Let's talk about the eyes later. I just want to know, did you collect the information I want?" Rog psychically summoned the metal box where the branch of the Tree of God was placed, and casually took out the branch of the Tree of God. "You should be more careful when dealing with rare existences. The collector took the branch of the tree of God from Rog's hand and signaled the maid next to him to return Rog's tablet to him. The ones who captured Bruce Banner were a group of slavers called rope catchers. They don't belong to any faction. They capture all kinds of powerful creatures in the universe, and then sell these creatures to customers who need them. As far as I know, my brother on Saga bought a lot of interesting creatures from the rope catchers. Collector Tanya stroked the branch of the sacred tree in his hand with exaggerated movements, then continued, "Your tablet has the information and the latest location of the rope catcher slave hunters. If you're fast enough, you should be able to find them before they sell Banner." Rog turned on the tablet and saw the star map on it, as well as the planet whose coordinates were specially marked. Xander. The rope catchers are on Xander? If Rog remembered correctly, Xander was the planet where the New Star Army's headquarters was located, and it was also one of the most orderly planets in the universe. The rope catchers were a slaver group, and if they took the initiative to go to Xander, it was no different from a fugitive going to the police station. Xander was a place where a street brawl could land one in jail for serious crimes. Isn't this information a little wrong? Xander will not allow the existence of slavers. The brighter a place is, the easier it is for darkness to breed. The collector replied with a smile, then signaled the Burgundy maid to see him out. At first, Rog thought that Banner would be captured to Saga, which was ruled by Lord Gao. After all, Lord Gao was the one who liked to organize gladiator fights. He did not expect Banner to be sent to Xander, which was famous for its civilized order. At the same time, he also had a question. How did Banner, who had never left Earth, get targeted by the slavers? Chapter 340. More than 3 hours later, Rog and the others arrived at Xander from nothingness. Originally, it only took more than an hour to travel from nothingness to Xander, and there were enough space jump points between the two places. The problem was with the pilots. Neither Natasha nor Scott had any experience in flying small spaceships. Although Rog had experience flying a small dark elf fighter, a fighter was not the same as an interstellar spaceship, and the manufacturers of the two were completely different. So before they set off, they had to take a temporary spaceship driving course. Fortunately, Rog was an experienced pilot. With his past experience and reasonable guesses, or rather recklessness, he successfully learned how to fly a spaceship. Although it was not perfect, he still managed to drive the spaceship to Xander and land it at the docking port. Halden City, according to Xander's evaluation standards, was a first-class city only one level lower than the capital. According to the information provided by the collector, the rope hunters who kidnapped Banner had just arrived in Halden City a day ago. Although Rog and the others did not have any legal identification documents, they did not have any wanted or bad records, so under the charm of money, they successfully obtained 4 temporary identification documents. That's right, 4. Even Blackie needed to get an identification document. Blackie in the form of the Northern Frost Blade could fool ordinary people, but he could not fool the port's immigration scanners. Therefore, on the immigration records, Blackie was a creature that must be identified, not an item. Where are we going next? Scott was still wearing his classic Ant-Man uniform, and he did not even take off his helmet. According to him, he was worried that the air here would contain substances harmful to humans. However, in Rog's view, Scott was not worried about the air being harmful, but he did not want Blackie to continue ravaging his hair. Let's find a place to check in first, and then exchange these things for new star coins. Except for the small spaceship, Rog's other winnings could not be directly exchanged for new star coins, the common currency of Xander. Therefore, whether it was to find Banner or for their own journey, they needed to exchange the things in their hands for new star coins. Rog originally intended to give these things to the collector directly, but unfortunately, the collector had no interest in them. Because of the New Star Army, Xander was more orderly than most planets in the universe, and the civilization level of the inhabitants was also higher. If the civilization of the inhabitants of the Land of Nothingness was equivalent to the Middle Ages on Earth, then the civilization of the inhabitants of Xander was equivalent to the 21st century on Earth. And to a certain extent, Xander was a bit like Earth after the rapid advancement of technology. However, as the collector said, the brighter the place, the easier it was for darkness to breed. Even Xander, with its perfect laws and strict order, had an inescapable dark side. Rog, on the other hand, was very good at dealing with these dark forces hidden in the shadows. In a certain black market that was not welcomed by the officials, Rog successfully exchanged the spoils in his hand for Nova coins and exchanged them for a number that satisfied him. 132, 68 million new star coins. Rog had just inquired that the most expensive suite in the most luxurious hotel in Halton City was only 100,000 new star coins per night. So, he was not dissatisfied with this number. In addition to solving the financial problem in the black market, Rog and the others also successfully inquired about the rope hunters. To be precise, it was Natasha who inquired about it. People who could not control their rationality in the face of beauty were not only on Earth, but also on Xander. The rope hunters just arrived yesterday. I heard that they sold a few good prey. In tonight's Bloody Gladiator, one of the rope hunters' prey will be fighting. I got 4 tickets, Natasha said calmly. At the same time, she took out 4 black tickets with only a red skull and a string of numbers printed on them. Then let's go take a look tonight. If everything goes well, we might be able to return to Earth tomorrow. Although that was what he said, Rog did not think that they would be so lucky. The fact that the rope hunters could make a name for themselves in this industry was enough to prove that they were not rookies. Rog had read the information provided by the collector. Although the rope catchers were just a group of slave hunters, their strength was not inferior to a regular army. In fact, they were even a bit stronger. If not, they would have been wiped out by the armies of other planets long ago. Xander's environment was very similar to Earth. Not only did the rotation time was similar, even the gravity and air were similar. What surprised Rog even more was that Xander, which was a technological civilization, had a high concentration of natural energy. Although the concentration of natural energy was not as high as Asgard or Warnerheim, it was still not bad. It was at least a few times higher than Earth's. When night fell, Rog and the other 3 arrived at the venue of the Bloody Gladiator. The Bloody Gladiator in Halton City was quite famous in the underworld of Xander. The organizers behind it were said to be the upper echelons of Halton City. As for whether the organizers were the upper echelons of Halton City, there was no definite conclusion. The only thing that could be confirmed was that the Bloody Gladiator in Halton City had never been stopped by the New Star Army. Excitement and safety were the main reasons why the Bloody Gladiator in Halton City was famous in the underworld. After handing the tickets to the guard, Rog and the other 3 successfully entered the venue of the Bloody Gladiator. It was an underground bar in the city. Before entering the bar, Rog and the other 3 received 4 identical white masks. The masks were very ordinary. There was nothing special about them. It was just an ordinary white mask. Every audience member would receive a mask like this when they entered the venue. According to the organizers, wearing the masks was to protect the privacy of the audience. After all, no one would want to be recognized in the Bloody Gladiator, especially on a planet that pursued civilization like Xander. The underground bar was larger than Rog imagined. It was almost the size of a basketball court. The dance floor in the middle of the bar was modified into a special ring. There were metal pillars as thick as an arm around the ring. They looked like fences for the ring. All the audience members wore white masks. They were either sitting at the table or standing by the ring. Some were whispering, some were silent. Welcome to the Bloody Gladiator. Tonight, you will enjoy a fight for survival where fists meet flesh and blood splatter everywhere. Tonight, you will see the light of life bursting forth from living creatures under the threat of death. Tonight, you will hear painful howls that will cause you to be unable to sleep for the entire night. Now, let us welcome the 2 protagonists of tonight. They are the undisputed superstars of tonight. The host in an unknown corner was frantically stirring up the audience's emotions. At the same time, he did not forget to remind the audience not to miss the final betting time. Rog also received a betting slip from a waitress who was wearing an alluring outfit but a red mask that covered half of her face. Although he did not understand Xander's language, it was not a problem on the technologically advanced Xander. A real-time translation system could solve all the problems. After putting on the real-time translation glasses he bought and adjusting his language to Earth's English, which was rare but still included in the dictionary, Rog casually browsed through the contents of the betting slip. Although there was only one gladiator battle, the contents of the betting slip were extremely rich. In addition to the simple victory and defeat, there were also bets on how many minutes the battle would end, whether the defeated party would live or die, whether they would be crippled or seriously injured, and even how many fingers would be lost in total. Depending on the content of the bet, the odds were completely different. Even for the simplest bet, the odds were not 1-to-1. On the betting slip, there was also a general introduction of tonight's contestants. One was a four-armed ape of an unknown race, and the other was a human. Of course, the human here was not an earthling, but an Asari. Chapter 341. Rog was no stranger to the Asari. When he was in Warnerheim, the Asari soldiers who died in his hands numbered at least a few thousand, if not 10,000. So when he saw that the contestant was an Asari, he could not help but recall the twins, Thor. 10 million on this Asari to win. Rog handed an anonymous new star card to the scantily clad waitress and completed his bet. On the anonymous new star card, there was a deposit of 10 million new star coins. As long as one had this card, anyone could withdraw money from any bank without needing a password. This new star card was the favorite transaction method of the dark forces. It was simple and safe enough. One only needed to confirm the balance in the card to easily complete the transaction. Aren't you being too casual? That's 10 million new star coins. When the waitress left, Scott, who was wearing a mask, lowered his head and whispered to Rog. Anyway, it's a win. If you lose, you lose. Take the betting voucher. If you win, you'll get the money. After that, Rog handed the betting voucher to Scott. It'll be strange if he wins. The odds are 1-3. 5. Anyone can see that this Asari is bound to lose. Scott said with some disdain, but he still silently kept the betting voucher handed by Rog. It was better to be safe than sorry. If he wins, this voucher would be worth 35 million new star coins. A few minutes later, the lights in the entire bar dimmed, and the spotlights focused on a side door of the bar. The first to appear was the Asari. With just a simple glance, Rog deduced the identity of this Asari. This was a Chiliarch of the Sword and Shield Brigade. He had a sword in his right hand and a shield in his left hand. The armor on his body was also the standard armor of a Chiliarch in the Asari army. Although a Chiliarch was not a general, he was only one step away from being a general. Even such an existence had become a gladiator. This bloody gladiator was not simple. Amidst the cheers of the audience, the captain of the Sword and Shield Chiliarch of the Aso Divine Army walked up to the arena unhurriedly. His face was as resolute as ever, as if he was not in the arena of a gladiator, but on a glorious battlefield. After the host casually introduced the Chiliarch's battle record, the crowd erupted into thunderous cheers. Amidst the roars of the audience, the four-armed berserk ape that was locked in the cage was pushed out. When the metal column on the stage emitted a light blue electric radiance, the four-armed wild ape in the cage was pushed to the entrance of the stage. Without needing any instructions, the moment the cage door was opened, the four-armed berserk ape rushed out like a mad bull. The metal pillar of the arena rose completely, and a high-temperature lightning cage was completely formed. In the next second, the 3-meter-tall, four-armed giant ape clashed with the Asari Chiliarch of Sword and Shield. Whether it was in terms of size, strength, speed, or endurance, the four-armed berserk ape had an absolute advantage. The only thing the chilly arch of sword and shield could count on was his battle experience and superb combat skills. The odds of the four-armed berserk ape were only 1 o'clock. 5. From the setting of the odds, it was easy to see the difference in strength between the two. As expected, within a few minutes, the Aseri chilly arch of sword and shield was at a disadvantage. Wounds began to appear on his body, and he was gasping for air. Rog had fought with Aseri warriors before, so he knew the approximate strength of a chilly arch. If his judgment was correct, the chilly arch of sword and shield would be completely dismembered by the four-armed berserk ape in 2 minutes at most. Seeing the chilly arch of sword and shield doing his best to block the four-armed berserk ape's attacks and seize every opportunity to counterattack, Rog's memories of Warnerheim appeared again. To save or not to save? Not long after entering the bar, he secretly used chakra to check the situation in the bar. Although there were many life signals in the bar, none of them could be considered an expert. If he wanted to save the chilly arch of sword and shield in the ring, it would not be as easy as eating, but it would not be too difficult either. After thinking seriously for a few seconds, he finally made a decision. Take half a step back, raise your shield, and slash. Turn left, half squat, and slash. Stab, shield bash, jump, heavy slash. The chilly arch of sword and shield heard the voice. At first, he did not pay attention to the voice that came from nowhere. However, he soon realized that the voice's guidance was indeed the best choice under the circumstances. After trying a few times, the chilly arch of sword and shield decisively gave up his plan and began to fight according to the voice's instructions. Other than the chilly arch of sword and shield, no one else noticed the voice's existence. Even Natasha, who was sitting next to Rog, did not notice it. Using chakra, Rog accurately transmitted his voice to the chilly arch of sword and shield, guiding him on how to fight. In terms of raw strength, the chilly arch of sword and shield was far inferior to the four-armed berserk ape. This was also the main reason why his odds were as high as 3. 5. However, the four-armed berserk ape was still a beast without intelligence. As long as the chilly arch of sword and shield could withstand the first few rounds of attacks from the four-armed berserk ape, he could use human intelligence to slowly kill the four-armed berserk ape. However, in order to do this, not only did he have to have rich combat experience, but he also had to have sharp combat instincts and essential combat skills. When experience, intuition, and skills were combined, he could change the outcome of the battle and gain the right to live. On the surface, the one fighting in the ring now was the Aseri chilly arch of sword and shield. However, in reality, the one fighting the four-armed berserk ape was a different kind of Rog. Not long after, the audience below the ring realized that the four-armed berserk ape, who had the upper hand, was gradually falling into a disadvantageous position. The four-armed berserk ape's attacks began to miss and become ineffective, while the chilly arch of sword and shield kept leaving wounds on the four-armed berserk ape's body. Light green blood began to spread in the ring, and the four-armed berserk ape's movements began to slow down. Reverse shield, right knee, triple slash, back of the neck, stab. The chilly arch of sword and shield took advantage of the four-armed berserk ape's unstable body and quickly went behind the four-armed berserk ape, stabbing the four-armed berserk ape's neck with the sword in his right hand. When the Aseri chilly arch pulled out the sword from the back of the four-armed berserk ape's neck, light green blood spurted out from the wound and dyed the chilly arch green. He won. He really won. Scott stared at the arena in disbelief, and he almost lost control of his emotions and shouted out loud. While Scott was waving his arms excitedly, Natasha turned her head and looked at Rog, who had been silent all this while. Natasha didn't know why, but she felt that she had seen the chilly arch of sword and shield's fighting style somewhere before. That style of fighting style that was at his fingertips and treated close combat like a game was very similar to that of someone she knew. No, it wasn't just similar, it was exactly the same. The fighting style that the chilly arch of sword and shield used was Rog's fighting style. Chapter 342. Did you help the chili arch? Natasha asked in a low voice. Before speaking, she wisely turned off the universal language translator in her ear. In a gladiator fight, helping one side is obviously cheating. Once discovered, the consequences are very serious. Although Natasha is cautious enough, she is not Rog after all. When she thinks about problems, she instinctively uses herself as the standard. For Natasha, doing something that will anger others in their territory is not a very wise decision. Her strength does not allow her to do so. But she ignored one point, that is, for Rog, he has enough strength to crush everyone present. The level of strength determines the difference in thinking and behavior. I stayed in Warnerheim for a while, and I have a good impression of the Aseri race. Rog did not say that his main job in Warnerheim was to kill Aseri soldiers, but he changed to a more euphemistic way of saying it. Won't this cause other problems? Although she knew why Rog wanted to help, Natasha was still a little worried. From the moment we came here, we were destined to have some unpleasant things with the organizers of the gladiator fight. It's troublesome anyway, it doesn't make any difference whether it's earlier or later. The reason why the rope catchers came to Xander was to deliver goods to the organizers of the gladiator fight. So if they want to know the whereabouts of the rope catchers, the organizers of the gladiator fight are a good direction. This is also why they came to the gladiator fight. Although Banner may have been sold directly to the organizers behind the gladiator fight, this possibility is very low. Otherwise, it would not be the four-armed berserk ape that appeared tonight, but the Hulk. Scott excitedly took the voucher to receive the prize money, and Xiao He also consciously followed behind Scott. Because of the unexpected result, not many people exchanged for the prize money, and Scott, who exchanged 35 million new star coins, became extremely dazzling at this time. Scott did not notice the eyes gathered on him, and he was now immersed in the excitement of winning the prize. With the staff of the gladiator organization around, there would not be any public robberies in the bar. However, it was hard to say what would happen after leaving the bar. Especially Scott and Xiao He, both of them had eye-catching appearances. Needless to say, Xiao He could recognize him at a glance just by looking at his physique. It didn't matter if he wore a mask or not. Although Scott's body shape was similar to the people of Xander, the Ant-Man uniform he was wearing was obviously not the style of Xander. So, after leaving the bar, it was not difficult to recognize him. Under normal circumstances, the spectators who came to watch the gladiator fight would not wear too many different outfits to avoid being recognized after leaving the bar. As for Rog and the other three outsiders, they obviously did not have such experience. But for them, they didn't need a similar experience because Rog didn't plan to leave the bar normally in the first place. When most of the audience in the bar had left, Rog took off the white mask on his face and went straight to the staff in charge of exchanging his bonus. "I'd like to see your behind-the-scenes boss. Please inform him." As soon as he finished speaking, several energy guns were pointed at Rog, ready to fire at any time. "I'll repeat myself. I'd like to see your behind-the-scenes boss. Please inform him." Rog continued to speak without changing his expression, as if he did not see the guns pointed at him at all. After he finished speaking, the staff in front of him still remained unmoved. The only change was that more guns were pointed at him. "Why do you have to force me to do it? Can't you solve it in a friendlier way?" Rog shook his head helplessly. Then, he disappeared in an instant, leaving behind a silver-white electric snake as thick as a finger. Lightning blink. Although Xander's technology was very advanced, the individual strength of the Xander people was not very good. 2 or 3 seconds later, the guards who were pointing their guns at Rog fell to the ground one after another. The guns in their hands were turned into scrap metal. No one thought that Roger would actually make a move. Even Natasha and Scott didn't think that he would do that. "Blackie, if anyone tries to resist, just eat him," Rog said calmly, then returned to the staff in charge of the competition's bonus. This time, without needing him to say anything, the middle-aged man from Xander immediately took out a palm-sized translucent device that looked like a mobile phone and contacted the person who could really make the decision. Half an hour later, Rog waited for a Xander person who also had green skin but was more than 2 meters tall, as well as a whole team of fully armed soldiers. Unlike the undisciplined guard he had casually knocked down earlier, these warriors were all wearing the same black combat uniform, each of them exuding a fierce aura. This was a team that had been on the battlefield. Rog quickly made a judgment. "Who are you? Who sent you to provoke the Bloody Gladiator Society?" The 2-meter-tall Xander person glanced at Rog and asked coldly. "You don't have to care who we are. We have no interest in your Bloody Gladiator Society. We're just here to buy information." "Buy information? Ha ha ha." After hearing Rog's answer, the tall Xander person laughed wildly as if he had heard a joke on a talk show. "A few small fries from an unknown planet, after injuring my people, you actually want to buy information from me? Are your brains filled with sewage?" Among the many intelligent races in the universe, there were many that looked exactly like humans on Earth. Other than the collectors, who were knowledgeable and had sharp eyes, very few people could tell that Rog and the others were Earthlings at a glance. The Xander person in front of him was a good example. I don't like to say the same thing 3 times. This is the 2nd time. I'm here to buy information. 35 million new star coins, I want the latest information on the rope slavers. Rog put the new star coins that Scott had just received on the table and said unhurriedly. If the guy in front of him still could not be communicated with, he did not intend to continue. Although violence could not solve all problems, it could solve most of them. And the one in front of him was the kind that could be solved with violence. The Xander person wanted to say something, but after feeling the amazing aura emanating from Rog, he fell silent. This guy is dangerous. Chapter 343. You have to follow the rules when buying information, but you're not following the rules now. After a few seconds of silence, the tall Xander said word by word. Although the Xander's face was still cold, his tone was much friendlier, without the previous arrogance and disdain. Rules need to be backed up with strength. I'm the strongest here, so my words are the rules. The other party gave in, but that didn't mean Rog would follow suit. When dealing with these guys who made a living in the dark, either admit defeat from the start or be overbearing to the end. Rog didn't like to admit defeat, and he wouldn't admit defeat, so he chose his favorite and most commonly used method. Looks like you've got us. Although our Bloody Gladiator isn't a powerful organization famous in the universe, we're not an existence that anyone can easily provoke. As soon as his voice fell, the Xander abruptly picked up the bottle on the table and smashed it on the ground. Bang! The bottle exploded, and dozens of muzzles were instantly aimed at Rog and the other 3. You're very strong, but your companions aren't as strong as you. As long as I give the order, a dozen holes will immediately appear on the bodies of your companions. You want to try? As one of the leaders of the Bloody Gladiator, Max was very confident in the subordinates he brought. Although his subordinates weren't members of the New Star Army, each one of them was no weaker than an official member of the New Star Army. And compared to the warriors of the New Star Army, his subordinates had more combat experience, and their fighting methods were more ruthless. Although he only brought 30 people, these people were enough to fight against the New Star Army in Halton City, and they might even be able to take down the entire city under the protection of the New Star Army. The reason the Bloody Gladiator could monopolize the underground arena in Halton City was not only because of the few higher-ups behind them, but also because they had the strength to intimidate the weak. But this time, they weren't facing the same kind of weak people who also made a living in the dark world, but Rog, a fierce dragon from another planet. Threats and intimidation, as expected, these are the same old tricks. Don't you have any new tricks? Since you've already mentioned this point, then I'll cooperate with you. Give the order to open fire. If you're still a man, then give the order to shoot. Not only did Rog not take Max's threat to heart, but he also provoked Max further. Threatening the safety of his companions might be useful against other superheroes, but it would not mean anything to Rog. He had never taken this kind of threat to heart. "You think I don't dare?" Max's expression became even more unsightly as he silently raised his right hand. Rog didn't answer Max. He just snorted disdainfully. "Good, very good. Since you don't care about their lives, I'll satisfy you." As soon as he finished speaking, Max swung his right hand down forcefully. Then, nothing happened. What was going on? Didn't they see my gesture? The expected gunshot didn't sound, and Max's face turned even uglier. This team was personally led by him. He knew his subordinates very well, so he was very sure that his orders would be carried out immediately. However, the situation at this time was completely different from what he expected. He was ready to fight with Rog, but his subordinates dropped the ball at this time. "Do you find it strange that your loyal subordinates didn't shoot? I'll give you a chance to look back. I swear on my character that I will never attack you when you turn your head." Although Rog made a promise, Max didn't believe a word of it. The bar was quiet again. Max's eyes were fixed on Rog, and one guess after another flashed through his mind. After nearly 3 minutes of silence, Max finally made a decision. From the moment his subordinates didn't shoot according to the order, the initiative was no longer in his hands. After taking a few deep breaths, Max slowly turned his head to look at his subordinates, and then saw a phenomenon that he couldn't understand at all. Every one of his subordinates maintained the posture of aiming, motionless, aiming very seriously, aiming very carefully. Everyone's finger was on the trigger, ready to shoot at any time. However, they didn't shoot. They always maintained the posture of aiming, as if they were lifeless figurines, standing quietly and aiming quietly. Although Xander's technology is developed enough and there are many dazzling inventions, Max has never heard of any weapon that can cause such a scene in front of him, which is completely beyond his understanding. Max wasn't the only one who was confused. Scott was just as confused as he was. Only Natasha, who had seen Rog freeze shield agents, could roughly infer the truth of the matter. Sharingan Genjutsu. To be precise, it's the Golden Bind Genjutsu cast by Sharingan. Before he had the Sharingan, Roger liked to use ninjutsu to freeze those small fries who weren't very strong. After he had Sharingan, the way to freeze small fries changed from ninjutsu to Sharingan Genjutsu. And now, as his Sharingan Genjutsu became more and more exquisite, the ordinary Sharingan Genjutsu was replaced by Golden Bind Genjutsu. Instead of using ninja coins to exchange for Golden Bind Genjutsu from the system, Rog relied on his own ability to forcibly research Golden Bind Genjutsu and successfully obtain the recognition of the system. "Now, are you interested in trading according to my rules?" After confirming that his subordinates had completely lost their ability to act, Max sighed helplessly. This time, he really lost. The next thing went smoothly. Max didn't even take the 35 million Nova coins that Rog paid for the information and handed over all the information about the Venus flytrap slave hunters to Rog. The situation is stronger than the person. Even if Max tries his best, he can't change the fact of failure. Instead of making an indifferent resistance on a whim, which will lead things to a worse direction, it's better to admit defeat and control the loss within a controllable range. As one of the leaders of Bloody Gladiator, Max knows when to be tough and when to admit defeat. "I've given you all the information you want. When can my subordinates recover?" Max asked in a very kind tone, without the slightest dissatisfaction on his face. "They'll be back to normal in an hour." After that, Rog left the bar with Xiao He and others and began to go to the hiding place of the Venus flytrap slave hunters. Chapter 344. In a farm dozens of kilometers away from Halden City, Jaros, who had just celebrated his 20th birthday, pushed a cart full of food toward a secret detention room below the farm. This farm was the only one within more than 10 kilometers. It mainly grew a herb called blue potato. Blue potato was easy to grow, had a considerable yield, and had good nutritional value. Thousands of years ago, blue potato had become one of the main foods of Xander. On the surface, this was an ordinary farm that grew blue potato. But in fact, this was one of the secret bases of the Venus flytrap slave hunters on Xander. Unlike the other members of the slave hunters, although Jaros was also a member of the slave hunters, he had never left Xander, let alone participated in specific slave hunting activities. Even his identity as a member of the slave hunters was inherited from his deceased father. Normally, Jaros's main job was to plant blue potatoes and be a responsible grower. When the Venus flytrap slave hunters came to Xander, he was responsible for delivering food to the prey and providing other reasonable services to the other members of the slave hunters. This included, but was not limited to, cooking, cleaning, serving tea, and so on. I don't know when I can become a real slave catcher. Deputy Commander Noah has already promised me that as long as I take good care of Special Prey number 41, I will be qualified to be a trainee slave catcher and follow the team to catch prey in the universe. Thinking of this, the tired look on Jaros's face was suddenly replaced by excitement. No one wanted to be a nobody for the rest of their life, and Jaros was no exception. Now, Special Prey number 41 gave him the opportunity to change his life. There was a 3-story base under the farm. The first floor underground was the living area of the slave hunters, the second floor underground was the detention area for ordinary prey, and the third floor underground was the special detention area. Under normal circumstances, the detention room on the third floor underground was rarely used. In Jaros's memory, the last time a prey was locked up in the third floor underground was 3 years ago. Pushing the cart to the third floor underground, Jaros could not help but gulp. Then, he mustered up his courage and walked toward the detention room of Special Prey number 41. Jaros did not know much about Special Prey number 41. He only knew that this was a special prey captured from a planet called Earth. Compared to normal prey, there were not many creatures that the rope slavers could note as special prey. These special prey were either extremely rare or extremely powerful. Every special prey could bring a huge amount of profit to the slave hunters. However, the risks were equal to the benefits. These special preys could indeed bring unimaginable benefits, but the danger was also unimaginably high. Jaros remembered that his father had once told him that dozens of years ago, the slave hunters were almost wiped out because of a special prey. If it wasn't for the leader of the slavers using himself as bait to lure away the terrifying prey, the rope grass slavers would have long disappeared from history. Jaros had never seen a special prey before, and today was the first time he delivered food to Special Prey number 41. This job was originally done by the official members of the slavers, but after the death of 7 official members, the job of delivering food fell to Jaros. I can do it, I can definitely do it, I will definitely become a real slave catcher. Jaros pushed the dining cart forward slowly in the dimly lit passageway. Every few steps, he would encourage himself. Although this meal delivery mission was very dangerous, Jaros believed that Deputy Head Noah would not deceive him. I have reached an agreement with Special Prey number 41. He will not continue to hurt the person who delivers the food. You can go there without worry. Although it was the first time Jaros had met Deputy Commander Noah, he didn't doubt Deputy Commander Noah's words. Deputy Head Noah was a powerful existence who had won 3 consecutive victories in the Saga planet arena. Such a powerful existence had no need to deceive a small character like him. While Jaros was pushing the dining cart to the detention room, Hulk, who was noted as Special Prey number 41 by the slave hunters, was in his room, working hard on his fighting practice. Boxing, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Sanda, Israeli martial arts, Skark fighting system of the UA Special Forces. What Hulk was practicing now was the fighting technique that Rog left in his memory with illusion false memory. Even though Hulk didn't look very agile, under his hard work, not only did he successfully master these fighting techniques, but he also gradually summed up his own fighting techniques. For this reason, Hulk also gave his fighting technique a name that he liked very much. Invincible Hulk Fighting Technique. Although this name didn't look like much, its power was not ordinary. Especially when combined with Hulk's astonishing strength, this fighting technique really had an invincible aura. While Hulk was working hard on his fighting technique, the thick metal door of the detention room was opened, and Jaros walked in with the dining cart. "Hello, I am today's meal delivery man, my name is Jaros." Jaros tried hard to control his nervousness and said in a calm tone as much as possible. However, after seeing Hulk's amazing body and his proficient fighting skills, Jaros couldn't help but swallow his saliva. This person is so strong. After more than 10 seconds, Hulk stopped punching and walked step by step to Jaros, who also had green skin. "Hello." After a simple reply, Hulk directly sat on the ground and used his palm, which was bigger than Jaros' head, to take out food from the dining cart. The dining cart full of food didn't even last 3 minutes in front of Hulk, who had an amazing appetite, before it was completely consumed. After drinking the last nutrient solution in his hand, Hulk looked at the motionless Jaros in front of him and said slowly, "This food is not enough. Next time, Hulk wants 3 times the amount." Although Hulk's tone was very calm, Jaros felt that he wasn't talking to a human, but a prehistoric beast. This kind of terrifying oppression was even stronger than that of Deputy Commander Noah. Jaros finally understood why Deputy Commander Noah's right hand was bandaged and there were obvious bruises on his face when he met him. "No problem, 3 times the amount, I'll remember it." Jaros replied quickly with an unprecedented speed, but in the next second, Jaros, who was oppressed by Hulk's aura, completely fainted. "Big guy, long time no see." When Jaros' body fell forward uncontrollably, Rog's voice sounded. Chapter 345. "Rog, why are you here, and Natasha?" Seeing Rog and Natasha coming in from the door of the room, Hulk's expression became extremely happy. "I knew you were kidnapped, so I came to save you." While speaking, Rog looked at Hulk seriously, and a look of doubt appeared on his face. Judging from Hulk's current appearance, he doesn't seem to mind the fact that he was kidnapped. Hulk was not kidnapped, it was Banner who was kidnapped. Hulk is very strong, Hulk will not be kidnapped. Hulk explained very seriously, and he didn't forget to wave his fist as he spoke. Although Hulk shares a body with Banner, Hulk is very clear that he is him and Banner is Banner. He won't admit that the weak Banner is Hulk. Well, it was Banner who was kidnapped, not Hulk. "Let's go, I'll take you back to Earth. You shouldn't like to live in this kind of cell-like room." Rog didn't argue with Hulk about who was kidnapped and directly changed the subject. After getting the information about the rope grass slavers from Max of the Bloody Gladiator, Rog immediately rushed over with Natasha and others, for fear that Hulk would be taken away again if they were too slow. However, after secretly sneaking into the underground base of the slave hunters, Rog found that things were a little different from what he had imagined. He originally thought that the rope grass slavers would try their best to avoid the appearance of Hulk and reduce the possible risks as much as possible. But after coming here, he found that the slave hunters didn't care much about this. Even this room specially used to detain Hulk seems a bit casual. Although this detention room is not bad and can effectively detain most of the creatures. But it is still not enough to completely lock up Hulk. With Hulk's strength, if he wants to leave here, he only needs to consume some stamina and he can easily leave here and destroy the entire underground base on the way. Go back to Earth? Hulk, don't go back to Earth. Hulk is going to Saga Star, Hulk is going to participate in the gladiator fight, Hulk is going to fight for Hulk's glory with his fists. As soon as Rog finished speaking, Hulk shook his head fiercely and decisively rejected Rog's proposal. What was going on? Was Hulk brainwashed? Hulk's answer was not only out of Rog's expectations, but even Natasha, who had been with Hulk for a long time, was also confused. Rog and Natasha looked at each other and came to the same conclusion. The brainwashing techniques of the rope trappers were pretty good. Although they don't know when Hulk came out, it has only been more than 20 days since the day Banner was kidnapped. In less than 20 days, the rope trappers had managed to brainwash Hulk. Although this efficiency wasn't particularly shocking, it was still considered quite good. Compared to Banner, although Hulk is not smart, he is definitely not stupid, and his will is definitely stronger than Banner's. Although Hulk sometimes had a childlike mentality, it was just that he was too lazy to disguise himself. Rog gave Natasha a look and asked her to persuade Hulk. Gladiators are dangerous, and the glory obtained from gladiators is not real glory. Don't you want others to be afraid of you? If you participate in gladiators and use force to fight for glory, it will only make others more afraid of you. If you want to get your own glory, you can do it on Earth. You are a superhero on Earth, and people on Earth like you, and they will be proud of your glory. Natasha slowly came in front of Hulk, holding Hulk's huge right hand with both hands, and said in a gentle tone. Looking at Natasha's gentle demeanor at this time, Rog couldn't help but think of the profession of a kindergarten teacher. Hulk was the stubborn child in the kindergarten, and Natasha, the kindergarten teacher, was trying to persuade him. Although the picture shown was very similar to normal situations, the feeling it gave people was exactly the same. When the person who was persuading him became Natasha, Hulk's refusal obviously lessened a lot. However, after a few seconds of silence, Hulk shook his head silently and rejected Natasha's proposal. Earth doesn't like Hulk, Saga planet likes Hulk. Noah promised Hulk that Hulk would become a hero that everyone on Saga planet would like. Hulk wants to fight, Hulk doesn't want to disguise himself, Hulk wants to be recognized by others. Although Rog has never seen Noah, he knows that the Noah mentioned by Hulk is the deputy head of the slave hunters. In the information provided by the Collector and Max, there is information about Noah. Before Noah became the deputy head of the slave hunters, he was a gladiator on Saga planet, and he was a gladiator with some achievements. But unlike other gladiators, Noah participated in gladiators as a free man. So after fighting a few gladiators and getting 3 consecutive victories, he left Saga planet and joined the rope hunters. Just as Natasha was about to continue to persuade Hulk to return to Earth, a violent explosion suddenly came from the ground, attracting the attention of the 3 of them. Xiaohei and Scott did not sneak into the 3rd floor with Rog but were left outside by him. Unsurprisingly, this explosion should be caused by Xiaohei and Scott. After the explosion, Rog suddenly made a decision. The commission he accepted was to bring Bruce Banner back to Earth. The commission did not specify a clear return time, so he did not have to consider the specific return time. In addition, he has a certain interest in Saga planet, a planet famous for its sports. Hulk obviously doesn't want to return to Earth now. Although Rog can take Hulk back by force, he doesn't intend to do so. Since Hulk wants to go to Saga planet to participate in the gladiators, and he happens to be a little interested in Saga planet, it's better to go to Saga planet together to satisfy Hulk's hope and satisfy his own curiosity. Get up, I'll accompany you to Saga planet to participate in the gladiators. Speaking of which, I don't seem to have a serious physical competition with you. Why don't we officially compete in the arena of Saga planet? Although Rog and Hulk have fought a few times before, those battles were not considered official. At that time, Hulk was either fighting Wood Dragon and Wood Arhat, or getting hit by his Tsukuyomi. Hulk has never officially competed with him in physical skills. Really? Do you really want to go to Saga planet with me? After hearing Rog's words, Hulk instantly became excited. He suddenly stood up, grabbed Rog's shoulders with his huge hands, and shook Rog's body excitedly. Chapter 346. No, I don't agree with this plan. Before Rog could answer Hulk, Natasha quickly stopped him. Although Natasha didn't know what kind of planet Saga was, she was very sure that once Rog and Hulk arrived at Saga, they would definitely make a big move that would surprise everyone. Whether it was Rog or Hulk, neither of them were law-abiding people. The two of them were equivalent to two human-shaped self-propelled nuclear bombs with the safety off, and they were the kind with a large yield. Hulk wants to go to Saga. Hulk agrees with the plan. Without waiting for Rog to answer, Hulk said to Natasha with a firm face. Although Natasha was the only friend Hulk recognized in the Avengers, Hulk couldn't make concessions at this time. Since Hulk has agreed, then let's go to Saga planet. Just treat it as an extra activity before returning to Earth. Hulk had no dissatisfaction with Rog's statement. As long as he can go to Saga to participate in the gladiator fight, returning to Earth or something is not unacceptable. At this time, Hulk was no different from a real child. If you want to persuade Hulk, you have to follow Hulk's train of thought. This is like coaxing a child, you have to use the child's way of thinking. Looking at Rog and Hulk, who quickly reached an agreement, Natasha sighed helplessly. She is not Rog. She doesn't have the strength to forcibly take Hulk away, so once Rog and Hulk reach an agreement, all she can do is to cooperate silently. When they left the detention room, Hulk turned around and glanced at the unconscious Jaros. After thinking for a few seconds, he grabbed Jaros and brought him out of the detention room. Rog and Natasha didn't say anything about Hulk's move. He's just a small character, there's nothing to worry about. Since Hulk likes him, then let him take him. Anyway, there can't be any accidents. The battle in the farm continued. Although Xiao He and Scott were at an absolute disadvantage in terms of numbers, the combat power they showed was not worse than the slave hunters. This was especially true for Xiao He, who had fused with 20 Lord-ranked symbiotic demons. Xiao He's strength was simply overwhelming. Although Little Black wasn't a symbiotic entity under the normal concept, Little Black could do anything that a symbiotic entity could do, and it could do it better. According to the symbiotic demon's levels, Xiao He could be considered half a monarch rank. Ordinary slave catchers couldn't even withstand one strike from Blackie. Only those elite slave catchers could block Blackie for a few seconds. Fortunately, the vice leader of the slave hunters, Noah, was also in the farm. Otherwise, Blackie alone could quickly kill all the slave hunters in the farm. As an experienced slave catcher, Deputy Leader Noah quickly recognized Blackie's identity. Although it was slightly different from the symbiotic demon in his memory, he was 100% sure that Blackie was a symbiotic demon. Perhaps it was because its master was Rog, but Little Black also had the thought of obtaining pleasure from the battle. Under Little Black's intentional indulgence, Noah, who was holding a two-handed great sword, had a rare chance to catch his breath. In the beginning, Noah and the other slave catchers used firearms. However, under Little Black's unstoppable attacks, they helplessly realized that using firearms would only make them die faster in front of Little Black. Thus, each of them took out their cold weapons and began to fight with Little Black in close combat. Of course, other than cold weapons like swords and knives, they also used some special capturing weapons. For example, sonic weapons and flame weapons that targeted certain special creatures. However, Little Black wasn't one of those common symbiotic demons. Sonic weapons and flames couldn't cause fatal damage to him. When Little Black quickly killed more than half of the slave catchers and directed the battle to close combat that he was interested in, Scott completely withdrew from the battle. It wasn't that Scott didn't want to participate in the battle, nor was it that he was lazy on purpose. It was just that Little Black stopped him from participating. Therefore, while Little Black was enjoying the thrill of the battle, Scott, who had shrunk to the size of an ant, could only sit on the leaves of some kind of plant and silently observe Little Black's battle. Although he had been with Little Black for some time and was often played by Little Black like a pet. However, after witnessing Little Black's battle posture, Scott finally understood how gentle Little Black usually was to him. Little Black's pair of seemingly ordinary claws were like divine weapons, easily tearing the enemy in front of him apart. Whether these people were wearing armor or not, in front of Little Black's claws, they would only end up being completely torn apart. Recalling the scene where Little Black often used his hands to ravage his hair, Scott couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Fortunately, we're on the same team. Fortunately. Little Black's happy battle didn't last long. It wasn't because all the slave catchers were dead, but because Rog and the others came near the battlefield. Because of Little Black, most of the combat personnel in the underground base were attracted to come out. Rog only dealt with a few logistics personnel who didn't have much combat power and left the underground base easily. When Little Black stopped, the slave catchers, including the deputy leader Noah, finally breathed a sigh of relief. In just a few minutes, they lost more than half of their members. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before all of them died here. Although Little Black stopped attacking, the deputy leader Noah didn't dare to put down the two-handed greatsword in his hand. He looked at Little Black with vigilance, as well as Rog and the others who had just arrived. After seeing Rog, especially Hulk beside Rog, Noah knew that they were in big trouble tonight. Blackie alone had the ability to wipe them all out. If Rog and Hulk were added, their survival rate was less than 1 in 10,000. Although it was the first time Noah met Rog, he was very sure that Rog was the strongest in this group. This was his intuition as a warrior, and also his unique vision that was honed by many years of combat experience. Looking at you, you should be Hulk's friends. This time, we, the rope catchers, admit defeat. Tell me, what kind of compensation do you want? After confirming that his strength was far inferior to the other side, Noah decisively chose to admit defeat. Noah stabbed the two-handed greatsword in his hand into the ground, silently stepped back a few steps, and motioned for the others to put down their weapons. From the day he became a slave catcher, Noah was mentally prepared for someone to come knocking on his door. So after seeing Rog and the others, he didn't show any doubts. The slave trade was not welcomed by the mainstream, and it was an industry that licked blood from the edge of the blade. Not only did they have to face dangerous prey, but they also had to be careful of all kinds of revenge brought by the slave catchers. Chapter 347. In the meeting hall on the basement floor of the farm, Rog and others, as well as the representatives of the slave hunters led by Noah, sat. Rog, Hulk, and the other four sat on the left side of the meeting hall, while Noah and other representatives of the slave hunters sat on the right side, and the two sides looked at each other across the table. Under the absolute strength gap, Noah, the deputy head of the slave hunters, wisely chose to admit defeat and tried to resolve this incident in a relatively gentle way. You kidnapped Hulk and brought us a lot of unnecessary trouble. According to common sense, we should kill you directly now and vent our anger. As soon as Rog finished speaking, Noah and others sitting opposite him looked gloomy. Slave hunting is such an industry. Once you can't bear the other party's revenge, you are in danger of being destroyed at any time. The only thing Noah is now thankful for is that not all the members of the slave hunters are gathered on Xander. The leader of the slave hunters and several other deputy heads are now performing missions on other planets. Even if Rog really killed all of them, the slave hunters would not be completely destroyed. But you didn't do that, which means that there is still a possibility of reconciliation between us. As the deputy head of the slave hunters, Noah can be regarded as experienced and knowledgeable, so he immediately grasped the key in Rog's words. Yes, we do have the possibility to reach a reconciliation. But the premise of reconciliation is that you can give us what we want. Having said this, Rog paused for a few seconds, then continued, I don't know what you said to Hulk that made him want to participate in the Battle of Saga. But since he has such an idea, we will naturally meet his request. First of all, we want the specific coordinates or interstellar map of Saga. Secondly, you have to pay reasonable compensation for your wrong behavior this time. The specific compensation is up to you. I only have one request. That is, the price of compensation is 3 times Hulk's value. Finally, I want the specific information of the planet where the blooming giant elephant clan is located. If not, you can hand over a living blooming giant elephant clan treant to me, except for the bounty hunter named Groot. Rog unhurriedly stated all of his requests. The first request was the simplest one, and it was also the prerequisite for fulfilling Hulk's wish. Although Saga planet was very famous in the universe, not many people knew its exact location. In particular, the safe route to Saga star was a secret that only a few people and organizations knew. Unlike other planets, planet Saga was surrounded by all kinds of known and unknown universes. It was impossible to enter and exit planet Saga normally. Moreover, there were no public jump points near Saga star, so it was very difficult for ordinary spaceships to fly to the star field where Saga star was located. Whether it was entering or leaving Saga star, it wasn't a simple matter. If one didn't have enough information and rashly went to Saga star, the result was likely to be a crash. Noah didn't have any objections to Rog's first request. It wasn't a difficult thing for them to do. The rope grass slavers had a lot of dealings with the ruler of Saga star, Gao Tianzuan. They had information on how to safely get to Saga star. In addition to the first request, Noah also felt that the second request was very reasonable. The loser had to pay reasonable compensation. No matter which planet it was in the universe, this was a common practice. The only thing that gave Noah a bit of a headache was the last third request. The Flower God Colossus clan. Noah knew about this special race. He had done some research on this race before, and even planned some capture plans. Groot was once on their arrest list. But unfortunately, they didn't catch any Flower God Colossus clan treants in the end. Even Groot's traces were intermittent. They couldn't track him at all. As for Planet X, which was said to have a large number of Flower God Colossus clan treants, the rope grass slavers hadn't obtained any useful information so far. The first two requests are no problem. I can make the decision to agree to them now. But if you want the location of the Flower God Colossus clan's planet, or a living Flower God Colossus clan treant, I can't give you an accurate answer for the time being. Some customers have made similar requests before, but until now, we haven't caught any Flower God Colossus clan treants, let alone the location of their planet. Some scholars even believe that the Flower God Colossus clan has been completely extinct. The treant Groot may be the last Flower God Colossus clan treant in the universe. Noah didn't dare to directly reject Rog's third request. He tried his best to explain the difficulty of the request. This is your business. I just need a result. If you're sure that this request can't be fulfilled, I won't force you too much. After all, I'm not a demon. Rog answered calmly with an indifferent expression. Although he looked very easy to talk to now, Noah was 100% sure that if he said that he couldn't fulfill it now, they would definitely not be able to see the sunrise tomorrow. We will do our best to fulfill this request, but it will take some time, so I hope you can give us a little more time. That's not a problem. Before the third request is fulfilled, you can follow me. When your leader sends the information or a living treant, you can leave. After hearing Rog's answer, Noah froze for a moment, then showed a wry smile. Rog is obviously using him as a hostage, and at the same time, he is forcing the slave hunters to make a choice. If the slave hunters feel that their deputy leader is not as valuable as a Flower God Colossus clan treant, then of course, they will not pay attention to Rog's request. At that time, Noah, who has been abandoned by the slave hunters, will continue to keep the secret for the slave hunters. This is also a problem. Noah is loyal to the slave hunters, otherwise, he wouldn't have become the deputy leader of the slave hunters. But no matter how loyal a person is, after being ruthlessly abandoned, there will be some dissatisfaction. This has nothing to do with loyalty, it's just simple human nature. Okay, I agree. Although he knows that this is a trap, Noah can only bite the bullet and jump down. The next thing is very simple. Under Noah's arrangement, the members of the slave hunters began to prepare for the compensation. The relevant information of Saga was also handed over to Rog for the first time. When receiving the information of Saga, Rog left a flying Thor technique on Noah's neck in front of him. This is just a safety device, but I believe that you are a smart person and will not let this device take effect. Rog did not explain the role of the flying Thor technique to Noah, but simply reminded him. Chapter 348. Are you sure this is the normal way to travel? I feel like the spaceship is about to disintegrate. Rog sat in the co-pilot seat of the spaceship and asked Noah doubtfully. Planet Saga is surrounded by a large number of universe passages. These chaotic universe passages are Planet Saga's natural barrier and the only way to get to Planet Saga. Noah held the control stick of the spaceship and steered the spaceship to avoid the various messy things in the passage. Old spaceships, broken tools, meteorites attracted from God knows where, and a large number of household garbage thrown out from various planets. The passage you chose better be safe enough. Otherwise, no one will have a good ending. Although Rog also knew how to pilot a spaceship, he decisively transferred the piloting authority to Noah when passing through this universe passage that was like a collapsed neutron star. The gravitational force of the singularity coordinates is about to break through the spaceship's tolerance limit. The main computer system is offline and has switched to an offline power system. Sitting in the co-pilot seat, Rog was not in charge of the actual flight. Instead, he acted as Noah's assistant and handled the various control commands of the spaceship. Natasha and Scott sat at the back of the spaceship with serious expressions, while Blackie and Hulk were full of excitement. The crazily shaking spaceship did not make Blackie and Hulk feel any fear. Instead, it made them feel an inexplicable excitement. Unlike ordinary space jump points, piloting a spaceship through a universe passage was not something that could be done in the blink of an eye. In this universe passage that was filled with all kinds of garbage and gorgeous light, Rog and the other spaceship was like a fallen leaf in a turbulent river, being tossed up and down by the constantly tumbling water. Damn it! The auxiliary engine of the spaceship was hit and the power dropped. I'll start the backup engine now. The originally bad situation became even worse. Roger synchronized the latest situation to Noah, who was in the driver's seat. Don't worry, we'll be out soon. At this time, Noah had put all his attention on the control of the spaceship, making the spaceship move at top speed and avoid obstacle after obstacle. Just as the spaceship's outer shell was about to reach a critical point and was about to be completely torn apart by the omnipresent gravitational force, the spaceship that had been flying for a long time finally rushed out of the universe passage. The moment they rushed out of the universe passage, the various chaotic force fields surrounding the spaceship disappeared, and the spaceship stabilized again. However, before they could breathe a sigh of relief, the damaged main engine suddenly stopped working. The outage of the main engine had greatly reduced the flying power of the spaceship, and the spaceship began to rapidly descend under the influence of gravity. If it wasn't for the backup engine still working hard to provide the last bit of power for the spaceship, Rog and the others' trip to Saga planet would have started with the spaceship crashing. But even so, their final outcome wasn't any better. The backup engine allowed them to temporarily avoid the danger of a crash, but the process of landing was still not perfect. Under Noah's control, the battered spaceship made an emergency landing on a garbage mountain near the space channel, ending its life. I'm starting to miss Asgard's Bifrost. After coming out of the spaceship that could no longer take off again, Rog said with great nostalgia. Asgard clearly had the ability to build spaceships, so why would he spend extra resources to build the Rainbow Bridge? In addition to the deterrent effect of force at the beginning, the comfortable teleportation experience is also a reason that can't be ignored. Compared with the teleportation of the Bifrost, the experience of just passing through the universe passage was like a nightmare. Rog was even ready to use Susanoo and Infinite Mode at any time. Have you been to Asgard? After hearing Rog's complaint, Noah asked curiously. Yes, and I have a certain reputation in Asgard. Rog added. He wasn't worried about what impact Noah would have on Asgard if he knew about this. Not to mention that Noah was only one person. Even if he pulled the entire slave hunters, it would be useless in front of Asgard. After moving his hands and feet, Rog used the super light rock technique to fly up. As far as the eye could see, there were garbage mountains of different sizes. These garbage from various planets fell from the colorful universe passages in the air, piling up into garbage mountains. In addition to these garbage mountains, Rog also saw some aliens in strange clothes. These people were like ants looking for something in the garbage mountains, and from time to time, they avoided all kinds of garbage falling from the sky. After using chakra perception to perceive their life energy, Rog landed on the ground made of garbage again. There is no city nearby, except for garbage, scavengers and flying garbage ships. Rog said what he saw, and then looked at Noah. There are many gathering places on this planet, and most of the scavengers live in these gathering places. There is only one city on this planet, Saga City, which was built by Gao Tianzuan. Of course, you can also call it the City of Champions. Noah was the only person who had been to Saga Star, so now he was not only Rog's hostage, but also Rog's guide. Before departure, Noah fulfilled Rog's second request and compensated Rog 900 million new star coins. The slave hunters originally planned to sell Hulk for 300 million new star coins, but they did not find a suitable buyer on Xander, so Noah later had the plan to sell Hulk to Gao Tianzuan. Not long after Noah finished his explanation, a group of scavengers armed with all kinds of weapons arrived in front of them menacingly. These scavengers witnessed the scene of the spaceship crash landing, so they rushed over like hyenas on the prairie. It seems that we have a new spaceship. Although the spaceship piloted by these scavengers looks similar to a garbage ship, in any case, it is a spaceship that can fly. Are you gladiators or ordinary people? One of the scavengers took off the mask on his face and asked casually. However, no one answered him. Blackie, deal with them, remember not to dirty the spaceship. Rog glanced at these scavengers casually and said to Blackie beside him. No problem, I like to bully the weak the most. As soon as the voice fell, Blackie pounced on these scavengers like a black tiger and began the process of bullying the weak. It didn't take long for these scavengers to become fragmented corpses. Chapter 349. Saga City, Central City, Arena Theme Hotel. Under the leadership of Noah, Rog and others piloted a broken spaceship and successfully arrived at Saga City, where they stayed at the Arena Theme Hotel specially built for extraterrestrial tourists. Although Saga has an exclusive currency, the currencies of other advanced civilizations, such as Xander's New Star coin and the Kari Empire's Kree coin, can also be used here. However, in order to facilitate the transaction, Rog still took out 500 million new star coins from the 900 million new star coins and exchanged it for Saga Planet's legal currency, champion coins. As for the remaining 400 million new star coins and the more than 100 million new star coins he originally had, Rog has no plans to exchange them for the time being. Xander's new star coins can be used on many planets, while Saga Planet's champion coins are only valuable on Saga Planet. Leaving some new star coins will also facilitate their activities on other planets in the future. Although for now, they don't have such plans for the time being. But it's always good to be prepared. The 50 million champion coins exchanged for 500 million new star coins were equally distributed by Rog to Natasha, Scott, and others. Even Xiao He and Hulk received 10 million champion coins that belonged to them. As for Noah, a hostage is not eligible to get a share of the money. After dividing the money, Xiao He took the lead and left with Scott, eager to have some fun. Hulk didn't plan to wander around, so Rog arranged the task of guarding Noah for Hulk. As for him and Natasha, of course, they will rest in the hotel for a while. When night fell, Xiao He returned to the hotel with the exhausted Scott and reunited with Rog and others. After resting comfortably for an afternoon, Rog and Natasha enjoyed a dinner in the style of Saga Planet before taking them to the most important and most popular place in Saga City, the Champion Arena. Next to the Champion Arena is the tallest building in the city, which is also the building where the ruler of Saga Planet, Gao Tianzuan, lives. The shape of the building is like a pile of large and small square blocks stacked together, and the color of the outer wall is as red as blood. On the outer wall of the building, there were 4 conspicuous statues. According to Noah, these 4 heads not only symbolized the 4 strongest champion gladiators, but also the gladiatorial culture of Saga Star. Horse-face Thor, Ares the god of war, two-headed beast, and humanoid. Noah briefly introduced the gladiators represented by the 4 statues. There was a hint of admiration in his tone. Rog remembered that in the original timeline, Hulk's statue also appeared on the building, and it was in the most conspicuous position at the top. But because of him, the future that should have existed had disappeared. Although Hulk still came to Saga Star, it was completely different from when he had inexplicably wandered to Saga Star. Hulk, you can try to carve your own statue too. You should like the feeling of being worshipped and liked by everyone. Roger said encouragingly as he patted Hulk's sturdy arm. Hulk will work hard. Hulk nodded heavily, exuding an extremely serious aura. There were 2 main ways to participate in the championship battle in the gladiator arena. The first way was to become a slave gladiator of Gao Tianzuan, and then be arranged by Gao Tianzuan. Although this was the simplest way, it was also the way that the fewest people chose. Because becoming a slave gladiator of Gao Tianzuan meant that they would completely lose their freedom. Everything, including their life, would belong to Gao Tianzuan. Therefore, anyone who had a little confidence in their own strength would use the second way, which was what Noah once used, to participate in the gladiator arena as a free man. Participating in the gladiator arena as a free man, regardless of the outcome, would not lose their freedom. But then, the free gladiators who participated in the gladiator arena must start from the most basic multi-person melee. Multi-person melee, team battle, individual battle, preliminary battle, championship battle. The free gladiators must start from the multi-person melee, step by step to the individual battle, and win 10 consecutive victories in the individual battle to qualify for the championship battle. Noah fought from the multi-person melee all the way to the individual battle and won 3 consecutive victories in the individual battle. If it was a slave gladiator of Gao Tianzuan, it would be much simpler. As long as one was strong enough, one's first gladiator battle might be the championship battle. There would be a number of gladiator battles every night in the gladiator arena. There would be multi-person melee battles, team battles, and individual battles. The time of the championship battle was not fixed. Sometimes there would be 1 battle every week, and sometimes there might not even be 1 battle in a year. Therefore, every championship battle would cause a strong sensation in the city. If Hulk wanted to achieve the achievement of having a statue on the wall, not only would he have to win the championship battle, but he would also have to win many times in a row in order to obtain the title of the strongest gladiator champion and successfully hang his statue on the building. After helping Hulk register for the free gladiator arena, Rog and the others came to the arena first and booked a VIP box above the arena. Blackie also wanted to register for the competition, but before he could do so, he was pulled away by Rog. Hulk was a warrior anyway. Why would a weapon like you join in the fun? Rog took a cup of Saga Star's specialty drink and sat casually on the sofa in the box, waiting for the gladiator battle to begin. Are you so sure about Hulk's participation? If Hulk's performance is too good, it may cause Gao Tianzuan to make a move. Noah stood behind Rog and asked doubtfully. There's nothing to worry about. Although Gao Tianzuan likes to gamble, he is not an unreasonable robber. He won't do something like robbing. Even if he really wants to rob Hulk, he has to be able to do it. Rog was not sure what kind of strength Gao Tianzuan had, but he was sure that if he wanted to take Hulk and the others away from Saga Star, Gao Tianzuan would not be able to stop him. It didn't take long for the list of the first multi-person melee battle to be projected over the arena. In addition to a simple portrait and name, there was also the odds for each gladiator. Rog glanced at it. Hulk's odds were not high, only 1 to 2. Not only was Hulk's odds not high, but the odds for the other gladiators were also about 1 to 2. Only Cronin's odds were 1 to 1. 8. Go and bet on Hulk's victory. As soon as his voice fell, Rog threw his championship card to Noah. It contained the 10 million championship coins he had just exchanged today. Although Hulk's odds were not high, there was no reason to let go of such a sure-win bet. When Rog took out his championship card, Natasha and the others also took out their championship cards and let Noah place his bet. Chapter 350. Unlike other gladiators, the number of gladiators in a multi-person melee was not fixed. It could range from 5 or 6 gladiators to 20 or 30 gladiators. The number of gladiators that Hulk participated in this multi-person melee was relatively large. There were more than 20 gladiators. When these gladiators from different planets, with different purposes, and with different weapons poured out of the various passages of the arena, the atmosphere in the arena suddenly became fanatical. The cheers of the audience came one after another, and the host quickly introduced the gladiators in the arena with very provocative words. Hulk, who had green skin and a tall stature, was as conspicuous as he could be on Earth. In this arena where a large number of alien races gathered, the big Hulk was not particularly eye-catching. Instead, he looked a little ordinary. At the very least, compared to those opponents who were wearing armor and wielding weapons, he didn't have any weapons in his hands, and he only wore a pair of elastic shorts. He looked so simple and ordinary. If it weren't for his good figure, most of the audience would have regarded him as a cannon fodder character. Hulk, who participated in a gladiator battle for the first time, was not as excited as his other opponents. He just glanced at the arena and the audience curiously. After looking around carefully, Hulk saw Rog and the others sitting in the box on the top floor and immediately showed a simple and honest smile. "I've finished betting. These are the betting vouchers." Noah, who had just returned from betting, took out 4 betting vouchers and planned to distribute the betting vouchers in his hand. "Just take it. Anyway, you'll have to get your bonus later." Rog did not take the betting vouchers in Noah's hand and answered casually. At the same time, he waved his hand at Hulk in the arena. When those gladiators just appeared on the arena, he used chakra perception to sense the strength of life energy in their bodies and then came to a conclusion that he already knew the answer. There were more than 20 gladiators in the arena. Except for Hulk, all of them were small fries. Even if Hulk fought all of them alone, the battle would be over in 3 minutes. In addition to sensing the strength of the gladiators' life energy, he also deliberately sensed the audience in the arena. More than 100,000 spectators had gathered in this circular arena that was comparable to 2 football fields. Most of the audience were ordinary people with nothing special about them. In some of the VIP seats and private rooms, Rog sensed dozens of slightly noteworthy targets. The life energy of a few of them was not much weaker than Hulk and Blackie. It seemed that there were still some special people present at the scene, but he didn't know how strong they were. The strength of life energy was not equivalent to actual combat strength. Some special races were born with astonishing life energy, but their combat strength could not be more ordinary. After the host introduced the gladiators in the arena one by one, a red smoke bomb was launched into the sky above the arena, signifying the start of the battle. The moment the smoke bomb exploded, the atmosphere at the scene reached its peak. Without any hesitation, the gladiators in the field attacked the enemies in front of them one after another. The battle royale of more than 20 gladiators officially began. The Cronan warrior with a stone body was the first to go berserk. He hammered the first enemy to death in a few hits, then strode towards the second enemy. Unlike the gladiators who were completely excited, Hulk at this time felt like he had not fully entered the state. He looked blankly at the gladiators who were constantly killing each other. Although Hulk did not take the initiative to attack, he quickly attracted the attention of the other gladiators because he was unarmed. 3 gladiators with different skin colors and races attacked him at the same time. When the weapons in the hands of the 3 gladiators were about to hit Hulk, who had been in a state of disorientation, finally entered the state of combat. Hulk roared and suddenly exerted force in his legs. His whole body was like a green heavy truck, rushing in front of one of the gladiators. Before the gladiator with a sword in both hands could react, he was completely knocked out by Hulk. His whole body was like a baseball that was hit, slamming into the metal wall of the arena. Boom! The moment he hit the metal wall, the gladiator with flesh and blood exploded like a watermelon falling from a high altitude. Bright red blood and broken limbs splattered everywhere. After knocking the gladiator away, Hulk did not stop at all. He showed flexibility that was completely inconsistent with his body size. He quickly came in front of another gladiator, and his huge right fist hit the gladiator's chest like a cannonball. Boom! Unlike the explosion just now, the gladiator who was hit by Hulk's right fist made a low muffled sound. His chest was completely caved in, and he had completely lost his life before he fell to the ground. After killing the two gladiators in a flash, Hulk jumped and fell from the sky like a meteor. His thick right leg directly stepped on the gladiator's head, completely crushing his head. He made 3 moves and killed 3 gladiators. Hulk did not make a move, but once he made a move, it was amazing. He quickly attracted the attention of most of the audience. Although the strength of these audience members was not very good, and their vision was not very sharp, they had seen too many gladiators after all. So, they could easily distinguish which gladiator's strength was outstanding. The attack was simple and violent, and the scene was bloody and violent. Hulk's fighting style perfectly met the requirements of these audience members. Soon, cheers for Hulk sounded in the arena. Hulk! 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 Listening to the cheers that were getting more and more orderly and intense, Hulk smiled. He smiled happily. This was the first time he heard others cheering for him. This was the first time he saw people like his battle. This was the first time he was liked because of his battle. Hulk wants to fight. Hulk wants to fight. Hulk wants to fight. Hulk roared excitedly, venting the depression and unhappiness that had accumulated in his heart for many years. On this day, Hulk found the meaning of fighting and the glory that he had longed for a long time. When Hulk was completely excited, the chaotic battle in the arena quickly came to an end. Except for the stone-bodied Cronin warrior, no other gladiator could withstand Hulk's punch. Whether they were wearing armor or not, whether they were strong or not, their ending was to be killed by Hulk's punch. Simple, violent, and without any suspense, he killed them with one punch. When Hulk was the only one left in the arena, the cheers of the audience were like a volcanic eruption that resounded throughout the entire arena. This was originally a mixed battle with many gladiators that was not much to watch. However, with his own strength, Hulk turned a battle that was not much to watch into his personal debut. Chapter 351. Hulk, who had obtained his first victory, left the gladiator arena with a satisfied look on his face. When he entered the gladiator tunnel, he turned back and waved enthusiastically at the audience. After that, he left the gladiator arena as if he had not had enough. For Hulk, this battle wasn't difficult at all. It could even be regarded as very simple. However, it was precisely this kind of battle that didn't have much difficulty that made him experience an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. Hulk began to like fighting. Because he was a free gladiator, Hulk didn't need to return to the gladiator camp after the battle. He could go anywhere he wanted. After winning such a satisfying victory, most gladiators would choose to indulge themselves and find the meaning of life again in debauchery. But Hulk wasn't those ordinary gladiators. He had just won the first battle in his life, and he didn't have any unhealthy thoughts in his mind. He walked excitedly toward the box where Rog and others were. Hulk found the meaning of becoming stronger. Hulk wanted to become stronger, and he needed Rog's help. At the same time, Hulk also began to look forward to the physical combat between himself and Rog. Hulk knew that Rog had mastered many magical moves and many magical abilities that he couldn't resist. But in terms of physical combat, that is, close combat, Hulk was still very confident. Hulk was a little pitiful. It wasn't the first time that he had become Logue's test subject. Odama Rasengan, would Dragon Jutsu, would Golem Jutsu, Tsukuyomi, recalling the scene of being tortured by these ninjutsu and genjutsu, Hulk couldn't help but shake his head as if he wanted to completely forget these sad memories in his mind. Under the guidance of the staff, Hulk smoothly came to the top floor of the arena and went to the box where Rog and others were. However, just after he took a few steps, he was stopped by a Cronin warrior who was taller than him. Hulk didn't know anything about the Cronin race. In his opinion, they were just a group of stone men who could move around. However, the Cronin warrior in front of him, who was nearly 4 meters tall, gave Hulk a sense of familiarity. On the chest of this Cronin warrior, there was a blood-red pattern. This pattern looked like a graffiti that had been casually drawn, but Hulk remembered that there was a similar red pattern on the stone golem that he had smashed into rubble with just a few punches. However, the Cronin warrior he killed was only 2 meters tall. He couldn't be compared to the giant Cronin warrior in front of him. Hulk glanced at the red pattern on this Cronin warrior. He didn't say anything and avoided this Cronin warrior. Because the number of VIP boxes on the top floor was far less than the number of ordinary spectator seats, the passageway on the top floor was much wider than the passageway below. Even with the 4-meter-tall Cronin warrior blocking part of the path, Hulk was still able to easily pass through. However, this Cronin warrior who appeared out of nowhere had no intention of letting Hulk leave so easily. Just as Hulk walked to the side, the Cronin warrior's rock fist arrived in front of Hulk. Hulk, who was in an extremely happy mood, didn't expect to be attacked for no reason. Caught off guard, the rock fist that was several times bigger than his head hit his chest hard. Boom! Hulk flew out uncontrollably as if he was hit by a high-speed train. He crashed heavily into the metal wall dozens of meters away. A hole about the size of Hulk's body appeared on the metal wall that was strong enough to withstand the attack of a rocket. Broken metal fragments scattered all over the ground. The loud explosion attracted the attention of many people. The staff of the gladiator arena quickly rushed over. The doors of the nearby boxes opened one after another, and spectators walked out one after another. When they realized that the one who was sent flying was Hulk, who had just won, many of the spectators immediately guessed the truth of the matter. It wasn't difficult to guess the truth just by looking at Hulk who was sent flying and the Cronin warrior who had an unfriendly expression on his face. Hulk had just killed a Cronin gladiator in the gladiator arena. Now, the Cronin gladiator's friends or family members immediately found Hulk and tried to get justice from him. If it was on other planets, this kind of public retaliation against a gladiator would definitely cause strong dissatisfaction in the gladiator arena. But it was different here. This was planet Saga. As long as you didn't attack Gao Tianzuan's gladiator, as long as you didn't retaliate in public in the gladiator arena, and as long as you could give enough compensation, Gao Tianzuan wouldn't mind the death of a free gladiator. It was precisely because of this that the Cronin warrior dared to attack Hulk here. Skull Crusher, the master wants you to deal with this guy as soon as possible. The master wants to watch the next battle in a quiet environment. A curvy Carry woman came to the side of the Cronin warrior Skull Crusher and said expressionlessly, "Before the next battle begins, I will bring this guy's head back. I will definitely not disturb the master's mood." Although this curvy Carry woman was less than half of Skull Crusher's height and didn't have any strength at all, Skull Crusher's reply was full of respect. After getting Skull Crusher's reply, the Carry woman didn't even look at Skull Crusher and Hulk. She didn't even look back as she walked into a private room and lightly closed the door. "The person you killed in the gladiator arena is my younger brother. Although I am very angry, this is not a reason for me to kill you. You will die purely because you made the master lose the bet. That's all," Skull Crusher said as he walked towards Hulk. He didn't care about Hulk's burning anger at all. Although this green guy had some strength, he would definitely die today. Skull Crusher wasn't blindly confident. Instead, it was his battle record that gave him such confidence. Unlike other Cronin warriors, Skull Crusher had the potential to become the Lord of Cronin. Once his height exceeded 5 meters, he could become the king of the Cronin tribe and become the overlord of the Cronin tribe, a name that would strike fear in people's hearts. Unfortunately, Skull Crusher didn't have such an opportunity. Just as he walked towards Hulk, a voice that wasn't loud but was clear enough entered his ears. "The Hulk you just attacked is my friend. Although I am very angry, this is not a reason for me to kill you. You will die purely because you have a pretentious master behind you. That's all." The person who spoke wasn't someone else. It was Rog, who walked out of the private room with an unhappy expression on his face. Rog. Chapter 352. Rog was originally in a good mood, but this arrogant warrior Cronin and his master completely ruined his good mood. Hulk won the first battle, and it was a beautiful victory. He also won a small bet because he bet on Hulk. If there were no accidents, tonight would be a very happy night. However, there would always be people who would create accidents that would completely ruin your good mood when you were in a good mood. For example, this Cronin warrior called Skull Crusher. Therefore, Rog used Skull Crusher's words to return the favor. As soon as Rog finished speaking, Skull Crusher slowly turned around in this narrow passage and stared at him angrily. After quickly sizing up Rog, Skull Crusher quickly made a judgment. This was an ordinary person from an unknown planet, and he didn't pose any threat. Although Skull Crusher was now a slave who had lost his freedom, before he became his master's slave, he also wandered the universe for a period of time and made a small name for himself. It was also because of his adventures that he met his current master and found a goal that was worthy of his loyalty for the rest of his life. "I don't care if you insult me, but you can't." Skull Crusher clenched his fists and suppressed his anger as he spoke slowly. However, before he finished speaking, Rog raised his right hand and pointed his index finger at him. Lightning evasion, Thunderbolt finger. A silver-white lightning bolt as thick as a finger appeared on the tip of Rog's right index finger. It instantly crossed the distance and accurately hit Skull Crusher's huge rock head. Boom! Skull Crusher didn't have the chance to say the second half of his sentence because the moment the silver-white lightning bolt hit his forehead, his rock head exploded as if it was blown apart. Rog's sudden attack not only surprised Cronin warrior Skull Crusher, but it also surprised all the spectators and arena staff. They originally thought that Skull Crusher and his master were already domineering enough, but they didn't expect Rog to be even more domineering than them. Cronin's warrior, Skull Crusher, never would have thought that he would die with his head smashed into pieces like his name suggested. In his life, he had used Skull Crusher to take the lives of countless enemies. And today, he, who is called Skull Crusher, was killed by Rog's Skull Crusher. Skull Crusher's head completely exploded and fell to the ground, using his life to create a dull sound. After easily dealing with Skull Crusher, Rog put his finger in front of his mouth and blew gently, blowing away the numbness that originally didn't exist. Thunderbolt finger seems to be a new ninjutsu, but in fact, it's just a different use of lightning evasion, lightning palm. There is no difference between the two techniques except for the place where the lightning is released. However, in order to make his attacks look more impressive, Rog gave a new name to the thunder palm that he released with his fingers. The next time you meet someone who's deliberately looking for trouble, you don't have to care about their background. Just beat them to death. I'll take care of the trouble you cause. After explaining to Hulk, Rog came to the box where the woman just entered and lifted his right foot. Taijutsu, monstrous strength. In order to make his kick violent enough, Rog directly used Taijutsu, monstrous strength. Boom! The metal door that was a few centimeters thick, when it was kicked by Rog, produced a terrifying deformation visible to the naked eye. In the next second, the metal door that could withstand most individual weapons was kicked away by Rog. It flew into the room like a leaf being swept up by a tornado. It crashed heavily into the wall of the room, which was also made of metal. When everyone in the box was attracted, Rog leisurely walked into the box step by step. Just now, there was a guy who couldn't afford to lose. After losing the bet, he asked his men to find trouble with my friend. I want to see what kind of trash this can't afford to lose and play with. Although Roger's tone was very calm, the provocation in his words was as obvious as it could be. As long as these people did not collectively lose their minds, they would definitely understand his malicious intentions. Do you know who you are talking to? A Carry youth with a weak body, like a playboy, slowly stood up and spoke in an extremely cold tone. Other than the playboy who could not even beat a woman, there were 5 other Carry people in the box. Among them, there were 3 beautiful Carry women who were either maids or secretaries, and 2 Carry soldiers who looked like bodyguards. With a simple glance, Rog knew that the 2 bodyguards had a military background. As for their strength? In a word, it was not worth mentioning. Of course, this, not worth mentioning, was judged by Rog's standards. If it was judged by other people's standards, these 2 bodyguards would definitely be the elites of the elites. They were not much worse than the vice leader of the Venus flytrap slavers, Noah. I really don't know who I am talking to, but I think that even if that person is not trash, he is still a useless piece of trash. Of course, he could also be a sissy, or a failed evolution product that had a misconception of his own gender. Since he had already started the provocation, he naturally had to provoke until the end. Just as a famous person said, since he wanted to pursue excitement, he had to go all the way. Although these were 2 completely different things, the underlying logic was the same. Number 6, Number 7, don't kill him so quickly. Give him some unforgettable punishment first, then bring him back to the Empire to play with him slowly. The Carry youth, who did not want to reveal his name until now, said to the 2 bodyguards beside him in a high and mighty tone. He then sat back down on the sofa with his back facing Rog. The universe is really big, there are all kinds of birds. Traveling around the universe is indeed something that can broaden one's horizons. Looking at the Carry youth, Rog said with a smile. At the same time, he helplessly shook his head. As soon as Rog finished speaking, the 2 bodyguards codenamed Number 6 and Number 7 came in front of him at the same time. However, the 2 bodyguards didn't have time to make a move, they were completely frozen by Rog, standing motionless like puppets. Sharingan, Golden Binding Genjutsu. At this time, the Carry youth with his back facing Rog didn't know what happened, he was waiting for Rog to scream in pain. Time passed minute by minute, second by second. When the expected scream didn't sound, the high and mighty Carry youth furrowed his brows with a gloomy expression. Chapter 353. Even if his reaction was slow, the arrogant Carry youth realized that something was wrong. Number 6 and Number 7 definitely did not dare to disobey his orders, the Carry youth was 100% sure of this point. Since there was no sound, it meant that Number 6 and Number 7 had completely lost their ability to move and even their lives when he was completely unaware of what had happened. Although the Carry youth was arrogant, this did not mean that he did not have a brain. From a certain point of view, he could even be considered as a quick-witted person. However, Rog's golden binding illusion was something he had never seen or understood before. To this Carry youth who acted like a playboy, Log's golden binding illusion was a form of dimensionality reduction without any suspense. Are you curious as to why your subordinates suddenly stopped making a move? If you want to know the answer, just turn around and take a look. In any case, you will soon get used to the feeling of constantly losing face. Just as the Carry youth was thinking about whether to turn around and take a look, Rog's voice reached his ears. This guy was not an ordinary person who made people feel uncomfortable. From the moment Rog kicked open the door of the box, every word he said had a perfect provocation effect. This made the Carry youth, who was used to being high and mighty since childhood, realize for the first time what was called the dangers of society. Although he was 100 times unwilling, the Carry youth finally stood up and turned to face Rog. His 2 most loyal and reliable subordinates were now standing motionless in their original positions like statues. The Carey youth could not even determine whether number 6 and number 7 were still alive. Even he could not make an accurate judgment, his 3 maids of course could not tell. And because of his domineering style, without his permission, his maidservant didn't even have the courage to open her mouth. Saga planet is indeed a planet with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Tell me your name, you now have the qualifications to tell me your name. Although from the situation, the Carey youth had fallen into an extremely disadvantageous situation, he still did not have the intention to change his attitude. Whether it was Skull Crusher or number 6 and number 7, they were not his trump cards to be tyrannical. His true trump card was his identity, which represented nobility, power, and strength, as well as his uncle. Rothschild was the name of the Carey youth. There were many Cree with this name, and he was the most respected and prestigious of them all. Carey Empire, one of the 3 great empires in the universe. The Cree Empire was a military and technological dictatorship. Its current leader was a life computer that embodied the highest intelligence of the Cree people, the Supreme Intelligence. The Supreme Wisdom encompassed all of the Cree people's science, philosophy, military, and ideology, and ruled over everything in the Cree Empire. Even so, under the Supreme Intelligence, there was still a privileged class of Cree. And Rothschild was a typical example. Rothschild's father was a cabinet member of the Carey Empire, his mother was a major shareholder of the second largest bank in the Carey Empire. His parents' power and status allowed him to have a starting point that far surpassed others from the moment he was born. However, all of this was not the main reason for his current personality. What made him truly supercilious and cultivated his unscrupulous and domineering style was that he had a powerful uncle who doted on him very much. It was precisely because he had such a powerful uncle who was famous in the universe that he had become like this. In Rothschild's view, other than a very small number of Cree people, the majority of the Cree people were lowly slaves. As he grew older, his view was no longer limited to the Cree people, but extended to all races in the universe. Because of his uncle's status, he had number 6 and number 7, who were strong enough to be the bodyguards of the Carey Empire's high-ranking officers. Because of his uncle's reputation, most of the people in the universe were willing to give him face and tolerate his tyrannical behavior. Therefore, even when number 6 and number 7 status was unknown, and they had completely lost their ability to move, he still maintained his original arrogant attitude. So what if you can instantly take care of number 6 and number 7, as long as I say my uncle's name, you can only obediently apologize. Rog did not have any understanding of Rothschild, so he did not know where Rothschild's confidence came from. Of the 3 bodyguards, one was dead, and the other 2 had completely lost their ability to move. Although Rothschild still had 3 seductive maids, the experienced Rog could tell at a glance that these 3 charming maids were just playthings that Rothschild carried with him. The qualifications to say your name? I suddenly realized that you are very similar to a Cree I know. Although he was defeated by me, when we first met, he also said something similar to you. Say your name. You have the qualifications for me to personally take action. His tone and attitude back then were exactly the same as yours now. They were equally arrogant and ignorant. The defeated opponent that Rog was referring to was, of course, accuser Ronan, who had been tortured to death by Tsukuyomi. Speaking of which, it was strange. Ever since he officially began his journey in the universe, accuser Ronan had appeared more and more often in his memories. It was like this when he was in the land of nothingness, and it was still the same when he came to planet Saga. He couldn't help but wonder if some ill-fated intertwining of fate had occurred between him and Luo Nan. I'll give you one last chance. Say your name. Otherwise, you will understand how terrifying the supreme accuser of the Carey Empire, Ronan, is. Rothschild took a few deep breaths and suppressed the anger in his heart. He issued an ultimatum to Rog with a cold tone. Accuser Ronan? When Rothschild said the name of accuser Ronan that had just appeared in his memory, Rog was stunned. Could there really be some ill-fated relationship? Rog began to worry about his future. However, Rog's worry was completely different in Rothschild's understanding. Sure enough, as long as I say the name of Uncle Ronan, I can see the fear shown by these lowly existences. What's your relationship with accuser Ronan? Rog directly ignored the disdain on Rothschild's face and asked with a solemn expression. Hee, there's no harm in telling you. The supreme accuser of the Accuser Society, Ronan, is my uncle. I am the junior he cares about the most. Offending me is equivalent to offending the supreme accuser of the Kari Empire, Ronan. But I'm very satisfied with your fearful expression just now. If you can continue to satisfy me, it's not like I can't. Before Rothschild could finish his words, Rog passed number 6 and number 7 as if he had teleported. He arrived in front of Rothschild like a ghost and raised his right palm. Slap. The next second, a crisp slap rang out. The thin and weak Rothschild was sent flying by Rog's slap to the viewing glass behind him. He was like a fly that had been swatted away and stuck to the glass. Damn, you scared me to death. I thought that I really had some ill-fated relationship with Ronan. Rog let out a sigh of relief and sent Rothschild flying. A plan emerged in his mind. Chapter 354. When Rog let Luo Nan off the hook last time, he only planned to use Luo Nan to spread the fame of the fourth Hokage of Earth. So he didn't deliberately find trouble with Luo Nan or the Kari Empire after starting his journey in the universe. However, he didn't expect that instead of finding trouble with Luo Nan and the Kari Empire, Luo Nan's most important nephew took the initiative to find trouble with him. It was as if fate deliberately pushed Luo Nan in front of him, so that he had no choice but to continue the grudges between him and Luo Nan. When luck came, it couldn't be stopped. When Luo Nan came, he couldn't get rid of him. Since fate had arranged it like this, Rog could only accept it with a smile. Rothschild, who was slapped by Rog, was stuck on the cracked glass for a few seconds. Then he fell heavily to the ground under the influence of gravity. Until now, Rothschild still couldn't believe the fact that he was attacked. Moreover, the attack was in the form of a slap. Rothschild had slapped many people since he was born. But this was the first time in his life that he was slapped. Even his parents had never slapped him. Being slapped was miserable enough, but the slap that Rothschild received wasn't an ordinary slap. Although Rog didn't use his monstrous strength and didn't use his full strength, his slap was undoubtedly unbearable for Rothschild, who was thin and weak and had close to zero strength. Rothschild felt that the left side of his face was like being stabbed by a red-hot iron needle at a high frequency. The burning sensation was accompanied by a tingling sensation that made him tremble uncontrollably. Green blood flowed out of the corners of his mouth and nostrils. Not only that, Rothschild's left ear was buzzing, as if hundreds of thousands of bees were flying in his ear. As for the pain from hitting the glass, it wasn't particularly obvious at this time. Especially when compared to the tingling sensation on his left cheek, it seemed to be insignificant. Rothschild lay on the ground with a dull face. After a few minutes, he stood up again as if he had experienced the most painful experience in his life. He dared to look at Rog with anger but didn't dare to speak. This man really dared to kill him. Although Rothschild didn't have any combat experience, he didn't have the ability to sense killing intent. But there was one thing that he was certain of. That was when Rog slapped him in the face, he didn't care about his life or death at all. He also didn't care about his uncle, Luo Nan, who had accused him. Luo Nan, the accuser, knew his nephew's usual style when he was outside. Therefore, he had reminded him more than once that if he met someone who didn't care about his life or death, he mustn't provoke the other party in a situation where he wasn't certain of victory. It doesn't matter if you suffer for the time being, as long as you're still alive. Uncle will take care of the rest for you. Roskuldu recalled accuser Luo Nan's instructions to him. Looking at your appearance, you shouldn't have been beaten into an idiot. So you should still remember how to contact Luo Nan. Go notify Luo Nan right now. Have him come to Saga planet to save you. Also, when you inform him, remember to tell him who you met. My name is Rog, 4th Hokage Rog. When Rog revealed his identity, the vigilance in Rothschild's eyes instantly turned into shock. He's Rog. He's actually the 4th Hokage Rog. The news of accuser Luo Nan losing to Rog wasn't widely spread, and the details of the battle weren't spread out. But Rothschild, as Luo Nan's most doted nephew, was one of the few people who knew the details of the battle. The moment he heard Rog's name, Rothschild finally understood why Rog didn't put him in his eyes from the beginning to the end, and why Rog didn't care about the fact that his uncle was accuser Luo Nan. I actually used my uncle Luo Nan to threaten Rog, who defeated my uncle. I'm really fucking smart. This wasn't a matter of losing face, this was purely a matter of having a brain problem. After knowing Rog's identity, Rothschild immediately made a decision. Admit defeat. Obediently admit defeat. Quickly admit defeat. I didn't expect you to be Mr. Rog. I heard your name from my uncle. I apologize for my previous arrogance and all my actions. As long as Mr. Rog opens his mouth, no matter what request you have, I'll do my best to fulfill it. I hope that Mr. Rog can give me, a junior who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, a chance to apologize on account of your acquaintance with my uncle. As soon as his voice fell, Rothschild bowed 90 degrees with a serious face. He didn't have the previous aloof attitude. Looking at Rothschild, who changed his face, Rog didn't say a word. Because he didn't speak, Rothschild didn't dare to raise his head. He silently maintained a 90-degree bow. Time passed by minute by minute. Rothschild felt that time had stopped at this time. It didn't flow forward at all. When Rothschild's legs and back trembled uncontrollably, Rog slowly opened his mouth and said, "For Luo Nan's sake, I'll give you a chance to explain. Get up." After getting Rog's answer, Rothschild straightened his waist with difficulty. Then, he carefully moved his trembling legs and waist. For the first time, Rothschild discovered that it was so difficult to maintain a 90-degree bow for a long time. He felt that his waist didn't belong to him anymore. I was fortunate enough to hear from my uncle about Mr. Rog's heroic appearance in battle. I know that you're a true warrior who constantly pursues strength. I'm ashamed to say that although my uncle personally guided and taught me how to fight, I'm still unable to become a hero like Mr. Rog. So I don't dare to guess what kind of way of apology you would like. I hope that you can give me some pointers and let me learn. It had to be said that although Rothschild wasn't a good person, he was indeed a smart person to a certain extent. After knowing that Rog was an existence that he couldn't afford to offend, he didn't hesitate as he was used to being aloof. He immediately lowered his posture and even directly put himself in the position of a junior. Although it was a bit intentional, he tried to put Rog on the moral high ground that an elder shouldn't argue with a junior. But in general, after understanding that he was in an absolute disadvantageous situation, he quickly made the most beneficial plan for himself and executed it perfectly. Dignity and face were put down without any hesitation. He deserved to be a guy born in a powerful family. He was born with the potential to become a politician. Rog found a few shining points on Rothschild. Chapter 355. Inform your uncle Luo Nan to come to Saga planet. Tell him that I want to compete with him again. After more than 10 seconds of silence, Rog spoke to Rothschild. Okay, no problem, I will help you pass on the message. After hearing Rog's words, Rothschild was stunned for a moment. He only replied after a few seconds. Although Rothschild didn't know why Rog wanted to compete with his uncle Luo Nan, since Rog said so, he could only agree. As for whether Luo Nan could defeat Rog, or what Rog wanted to gain through this competition, it was not within Rothschild's consideration. After telling Rog the hotel where he was currently staying and the contact information, Rothschild respectfully sent Rog away. Rog did not leave the Flying Thor technique on Rothschild, nor did he intend to leave a shadow clone or wood clone to watch over Rothschild. Although Rothschild was a little arrogant, he was a smart person. He knew very well what the consequences of secretly escaping would be. Because of this unexpected episode, Rog did not continue to stay and watch the gladiator fight. He returned to the hotel with Hulk and others. In the next few days, Hulk signed up for the gladiator fights every day, and he won again and again. Hulk's simple and violent fighting style was inexplicably in line with the preferences of the Saga planet audience. Therefore, Hulk had his own gladiator nickname, World Destroyer. Of course, there were also some audience members who felt that the title of World Destroyer was not domineering enough, so they called Hulk King Hulk. For these two new nicknames of Hulk, Rog's only feeling was that the magical fate had once again played a role. Whether it was World Destroyer Hulk, King Hulk, or Green Death who had not been born yet, they were actually another form of Hulk in other parallel universes. In the parallel universe, World Destroyer Hulk, also known as Green Death, was a combat master who could use cold weapons such as great swords, spears, and shields. He also had the wisdom and personality of Dr. Bruce Banner. He was an excellent leader and strategist. Although Hulk now had the title of World Destroyer, he was still very far away from the true World Destroyer Hulk, which was Green Death. It was not difficult for the current Hulk to use cold weapons such as great swords and spears. However, it is still impossible for him to have Dr. Banner's wisdom and personality at the same time. Although it was not a complete Green Death, Hulk still displayed unparalleled absolute dominance in the gladiator arena and quickly obtained the qualifications to participate in the individual battle. As long as Hulk could obtain no less than 10 consecutive victories in the individual battles, he would be able to participate in Saga Planet's highest standard and also the most popular gladiator tournament, the Battle of Champions. When Hulk shone brightly in the arena, Rog and Blackie couldn't help but play a few rounds. Of course, in order to avoid being assigned to the same battle, they chose to participate at different times. While Rog, Hulk, and Blackie were having fun in the arena, Natasha and Scott were getting more and more depressed. Although the journey in the universe was very interesting, as ordinary Earthlings, Natasha and Scott still hoped to return to Earth as soon as possible. After all, only on Earth did they have a true sense of belonging. But judging from the current situation, Rog and Scott would not have any plans to return to Earth in a short time. Time passed day by day. When Rog and Blackie successfully obtained the qualifications to participate in the individual battle, Rothschild's uncle, Ronan, finally arrived at Saga Planet on his own battleship, Dark Star. If it weren't for Rothschild being his favorite nephew, Ronan would never have come to Saga Planet, let alone meet Rog. After the last battle, Ronan recuperated in the highest-level private hospital in the Keri Empire for a whole month before he finally got rid of the aftereffects brought by Tsukumi. Even if he had completely recovered now, Ronan still couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart when he thought of what happened in Tsukumi's world. Tsukumi, this was not a move that intelligent creatures could resist at all. At least in Ronan's memory, no one could completely ignore or directly get rid of Tsukumi's influence. And what made Ronan even more concerned was that even though he had personally experienced Tsukumi once, he still couldn't figure out how Tsukumi took effect. So when he received the news from Rothschild, he knew that his nephew, who had run amok, had inexplicably provoked Rog and made Rog have the idea of having a rematch with him. At that time, Ronan really had the urge to kill Rothschild completely. But this impulse was quickly suppressed by him. After all, Rothschild was his favorite nephew. Saga City's Central City District, the main arena hotel, Blood Dusk, the top floor of the hotel's royal suite. Seeing your current healthy appearance, I'm very gratified. Rog sat on the sofa in the suite's living room, holding a glass of blue Saga Planet specialty liquor, and said with a casual expression. The Keri Empire's medical standards are much more advanced than Earth's, so recovering isn't difficult. The controller, Ronan, sat across from Rog. He sat upright and still, wearing the typical Kerry armor. The Kerry Empire's high-tech warhammer, known as the omnipotent weapon, was placed less than a meter away from him on his right. Your nephew should have already told you the general situation, so I won't be long-winded. My request is very simple. I want to have a personal battle with you in the gladiator arena. Regardless of the outcome, you can leave with your nephew. Of course, in order to make the battle fairer, I won't use Tsukuyomi to deal with you. You can rest assured. After taking a sip of the blue liquor in the glass, Rog continued. It's that simple? It wasn't that Ronan didn't believe in Rog's guarantee, but he couldn't understand why Rog had asked him to come all the way here just to have a fight with him in the gladiator arena. After knowing that Rothschild had provoked Rog, Ronan also learned everything from Rothschild. It was precisely because of this that he didn't believe that Rog would be so easy to talk to. Apart from Cronin, who was killed, and Rothschild being slapped, Rog basically didn't do anything. According to Ronan's conjecture, Rog shouldn't be so easy to talk to. It's that simple. After the fight, you can leave with your nephew. But speaking of which, I suddenly have a small question. I learned from Rothschild that although you and his father are brothers, your relationship hasn't been good since you were young. He likes to use wisdom to solve problems, so he embarked on the path of politics and finally became a member of the cabinet. As for you, you like to use force to solve problems, so you became a warrior and joined the controllers, who have military power. You were appointed as the Supreme Controller by the Supreme Wisdom. The relationship between the two of you isn't good, but you inexplicably dote on his son. I can't help but think of some bad things. And I heard that his mother met you first before she met his father. Originally, Roger didn't really want to know about this matter. But when he saw Luo Nan personally rush to Saga planet from far away, and when Luo Nan didn't hesitate to risk his life to exchange blows with him, his gossipy soul suddenly ignited. Chapter 356. This is my private matter. I refuse to answer. Luo Nan looked at Rog with an incredulous expression. He couldn't understand why Rog would suddenly ask such a question. And from his question, it was obvious that he had some guesses. As a warrior, and a warrior with such outstanding strength, it was completely unreasonable for him to have this kind of gossipy mentality. Since you don't want to say, then I won't ask. You can leave now. Right, remember to go to the arena to register for the participation. With your status, you should be able to directly qualify for the individual battle. After he finished speaking, Luo Gu gestured to Luo Nan to walk slowly. Although Saga Planet's arena had a rule that the free gladiators could only advance to the next level of the arena through continuous victories, there were always exceptions to everything. For an existence like the accuser Luo Nan, who had a great reputation in the universe, even if he wanted to participate, he wouldn't necessarily have to start from the lowest level of the melee. After all, a person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. For an existence like Luo Nan, participating in a low-level battle would only result in a one-sided slaughter without any suspense. For the viewing effect of the battle, the arena would certainly make an appropriate balance. If Rog had reported his name as the fourth Hokage when he registered, he would have had a great chance to directly qualify for the individual battle. When Luo Nan left the living room, he left the hotel with the guard waiting outside and the instigator of all this, Rothschild. Do you really want to fight with him again? Didn't you already win against him before? Natasha came to the living room and sat directly next to Rog. She asked doubtfully. Although I won against him last time, he underestimated me too much at that time, so the fight wasn't very satisfying. And I just happened to be learning some new moves recently. I want to try it out on him. Rog didn't say what move he was learning now. Even if he said it, Natasha might not understand. Well, when do you plan to return to Earth? After defeating the accuser Luo Nan, or after Hulk wins the championship battle and hangs his statue on Gao Tianzuan's champion building? Natasha continued to ask. We'll see how it goes. Don't worry, we won't be staying on Saga Star for too long. No matter what, this is a trash planet. I'm not a weirdo like Gao Tianzuan. I don't plan to live here for a long time. He will definitely return to Earth. Not to mention that all of his subordinates and forces are on Earth, even if it's for the 300 ninja coins given by the system, he will definitely return to Earth. Ninja coins, he would never complain about having too little, just like no one would complain about having too much money. The news of the Keri Empire's famous accuser, Ronin, signing up for the gladiator fight quickly spread out, and it quickly caused a wave of excitement. Anyone who roamed the universe would have a certain understanding of the Keri Empire. The Keri Empire's way of doing things was tyrannical and unyielding. Although they were one of the 3 great empires in the universe, the news that spread out was mostly bad. Accuser Luo Nan was the highest accuser of the Kri Empire's accuser group. His strength was outstanding and his fame was illustrious. His initiative to participate was not only a surprise to the audience on Saga Planet, but it was also a pleasant surprise. There were even many audience members who speculated that the ruler of Saga Planet, Gao Tianzuan, would specially arrange a championship fight for Luo Nan. Indeed, Luo Nan had not participated in any gladiator fight, but his past record was enough to prove that he had the strength to participate in the championship fight. Although Luo Nan's registration set off a heated discussion among the audience, the ruler of Saga Planet, Gao Tianzuan, did not announce the championship fight for a long time. In the champion building next to the gladiator arena, Gao Tianzuan, with gray hair and a silver stripe from his lower lip to the center of his chin, sat on a huge high-back chair. He said to a sturdy female guard wearing armor beside him, "Recently, the strength of the free gladiators who participated in the gladiator fight is very good, especially the world destroyer, Hulk. I like him very much." "Understood, I'll arrange for people to catch him." Gao Tianzuan just finished speaking when the female guard with a serious expression said in a serious tone. "When did I say I want to catch Hulk? No, I don't want to catch Hulk. I want to arrange a perfect match for him. The accuser who just signed up today seems to be quite good." Gao Tianzuan, who was wearing a gorgeous golden coat, nodded as he spoke, as if to confirm whether his arrangement was correct. However, he soon overturned his plan. Luo Nan can't do it. His match with Hulk won't be very fair. This will disappoint the audience. Luo Nan is not suitable, and the other gladiators are not suitable either. Why don't I have a gladiator like Hulk in my hands? This is really sad news. Gao Tianzuan suddenly sighed bitterly when he said this. The tall female guard beside Gao Tianzuan was already used to Gao Tianzuan's muttering and sudden mood changes. By the way, Hulk's companions, the symbiotic demon named Blackie and the earthling named Rog, are not bad. Why don't we arrange for them to have a life-and-death battle with their companions? Friendship, bonds, companions with deep feelings, and a life-and-death battle for the glory of victory. The loser will lose his life, and the winner will live a miserable life in regret. This will be a battle that shakes the soul. Gao Tianzuan suddenly became excited when he thought of something. He stood up excitedly and waved his hands wildly. However, Gao Tianzuan's excitement only lasted for a few seconds before it disappeared. He sat back on the high-back chair with a dispirited look. No, it still won't do. This is not suitable for Hulk. Hulk, World Destroyer Hulk, King Hulk. Hulk with green skin, Gao Tianzuan began to talk to himself again. Then, his eyes lit up as he suddenly thought of something. Green-skinned, a man and a woman. One fights simply and violently, while the other has exquisite combat skills. One has amazing strength and endurance, while the other has a small and agile figure. It's her. That's right, it's her. The most dangerous woman in the universe against the craziest man in the universe. A top-level female assassin against a top-level male warrior. This is a fair match for Hulk. After excluding Luo Nan, Blackie, Rog, and the others, Gao Tianzuan finally arranged an opponent for Hulk in the next match. In his opinion, it was an opponent who was evenly matched and could make the gladiator fight the best. The survivor of the Xihu people, the most dangerous woman in the universe, the adopted daughter of the crazy Titan Thanos, Kimura Jean Huberly Ben Titan. Chapter 357. It's estimated that only someone like Gao Tianzuan would think that Kimura would be a match for Hulk. However, the female guard standing next to Gao Tianzuan, the sturdy Topaz, nodded in agreement. It's decided then. Topaz, you go to the underground prison and bring our charming and dangerous female assassin Kimura here. I want to see this legendary female assassin. While speaking, Gao Tianzuan rubbed his hands excitedly, a meaningful smile appeared on his face. If it was someone who didn't know Gao Tianzuan well enough, after seeing his appearance at this time, they would definitely treat him as a pervert with some kind of special fetish. At this time, Rog didn't know that Gao Tianzuan had already arranged Hulk's next opponent. When he learned that Luo Nan had signed up for the competition, he also signed up his name. As long as Hulk didn't sign up during this time, then Rog would be the only opponent that could match Luo Nan. Whether it was to give the audience a good viewing experience, or to make the competition more fair, the gladiator arena could only arrange the two of them together. As Rog expected, after he signed up his name, the gladiator arena quickly announced a specific gladiator preview. The mysterious ninja Rog vs the supreme controller of the Keri Empire, Luo Nan. When the gladiator preview was just released, the residents of the city didn't feel anything wrong. However, when Rog's name appeared together with Luo Nan, a piece of news that wasn't widely spread. The controller, Luo Nan, had once lost to the hands of the fourth Hokage, Luo Gu. After coming to Saga planet, although Rog didn't deliberately spread his name as the fourth Hokage, the residents of Saga City were very gossipy and quickly dug out his identity. Including the news that he once defeated Luo Nan, as well as his 9 consecutive victories in nothingness. After confirming that the ninja Rog who recently shone in the gladiator arena was the fourth Hokage who once defeated controller Luo Nan, the tickets for the gladiator night were quickly sold out, and the amount of bets on the gladiator night was getting higher and higher. As the time of the gladiator fight got closer and closer, the matter of Rog's dispute with Rothschild on the top floor of the gladiator arena was also dug out by the curious audience. There were even many audience members who deduced the whole process of the matter. Keri Empire's Hegemon Rothschild, because he lost the bet, sent people to attack Hulk who had just come down. As Hulk's friend, Rog immediately took action, killing Rothschild's men, and broke into Rothschild's box. Roger taught Rothschild, who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, a lesson in the VIP room. He also had Rothschild notify his uncle, Ronan. And so, Keri Empire's supreme controller Luo Nan rode his own warship, Dark Star, to planet Saga. Although the audience members who were exploding with curiosity didn't dig out the situation of Rog and Luo Nan's meeting, they speculated that the two of them had clearly reached some kind of agreement after Luo Nan left the hotel and immediately signed up for the gladiator fight. That's why there was this gladiator fight that attracted so much attention. As more and more inside information was dug out, the audience's enthusiasm grew higher and higher. The individual battle between Rog and Luo Nan that hadn't started yet had a faint momentum of a championship battle. The fourth Hokage Rog's battle to make a name for himself. The controller Luo Nan's battle for revenge. A powerful ninja from the backward civilization of Earth against the supreme controller of the Keri Empire, one of the 3 great empires in the universe. All kinds of exaggerated gladiator fight titles were passed on one after another. The scalp tickets for the gladiator night also became hard to find, and the price was higher than the sky. Although the news was already in full swing outside, there were even many fanatical audience members who broke into the hotel where Rog was staying, Scarlet Dusk, trying to dig out more inside information from Rog before the gladiator fight. Rog didn't pay attention to what was happening outside. Right now, he was making the final preparations for the gladiator fight. When Rosewood contacted Luo Nan, he exchanged a taijutsu from the system that he should have exchanged a long time ago. Taijutsu, Hashiman Tanku. This was the ultimate taijutsu that Konoha's ninja Mado Dai spent 20 years to develop. By unlocking the chakra channel in the body, he could temporarily obtain a powerful strength. When the Hashiman Tanku is fully opened, he could instantly obtain 10 times the strength of the 5 Kages. The power of the Hashiman Tanku depends on the user's own strength. The stronger the user, the stronger the power obtained after opening the Hashiman Tanku. After opening the 8th gate of death, the user will die due to the exhaustion of his own vitality. Exchange price, 100 ninja coins. When he saw the exchange price, Rog was still a bit hesitant. But after seeing the specially marked sentence behind the exchange icon, he decisively chose to exchange without a trace of hesitation. Because the difficulty of training is too high, when you exchange for the Hashiman Tanku, you can also get the related moves and the training notes of Mado Dai and Mado Gai. Rog wasn't very interested in the training notes of Mado Dai and Mado Gai. What really moved him were the 6 moves that came with it. First gate of opening, Outer Lotus, Third gate of life, Inner Lotus, 6th gate of view, Morning Peacock, 7th gate of surprise, Day Tiger, 8th gate of death, Evening Statue, Night Guy. While waiting for Luo Nan's arrival and practicing in the gladiator arena, Rog had been practicing the Hashiman Tanku, and the progress was very amazing. Although it was only less than a week, he had successfully practiced the Hashiman Tanku to the 5th gate of limit, and he also faintly touched the opportunity to open the 6th gate of view. It was also because of this that he didn't leave the hotel even once after Luo Nan left. Even when he signed up for the gladiator arena, he asked Hulk for help. In the empty room, Rog, who was sitting cross-legged on the floor, emitted a light blue chakra visible to the naked eye. Fortunately, Rog had experienced all kinds of extraordinary, overloaded, and exceeding physical training before, and he also had the body of immortal Hashirama that was more than half developed, so the abnormal physical requirements of the Hashiman Tanku weren't really a problem for him. If he was given enough time, such as 1 month or 2 months, he was 100% sure that he could completely master the Hashiman Tanku. But now, what he lacked the most was time. The time of the gladiator arena was set for tomorrow night. If he couldn't smoothly open the 6th gate of view before the gladiator arena, he could only use the power of the 5th gate of limit to deal with Luo Nan. Although opening the 5th gate of limit was enough to give him a terrifying increase in strength, no one would dislike their own strength for being too strong. More importantly, this time, he planned to use physical techniques to win against Luo Nan. Chapter 358. Saga City, Gladiator Arena. After a series of lively promotions, the battle between the 4th Hokage, Rog, and Ronin, the manipulator, began as scheduled. However, before they appeared on the stage, there would be a personal battle that served as an introductory match. It would hype up the already fanatical scene for the two of them. Rog sat in the lounge, wrapping the white bandage around his arm with great seriousness. Since he and Ronin were both free gladiators, they could use any equipment they chose in the arena. Of course, firearms and other hot weapons were absolutely prohibited. While Rog was wrapping the bandage around his arm, Ronin, who was in another lounge, was also wearing a custom-made armor with the help of a guard. Ronin, who had already fought with Rog once and was defeated, was fully prepared for this battle. In addition to the custom-made armor and the omnipotent weapon, Warhammer, Ronin also wore a helmet that he had never worn before. Although Rog had promised not to use Tsukuyomi, Ronin still had some worries in his heart. Tsukuyomi's terrifying power only needed to be experienced once, and it would leave an unforgettable memory. If it weren't for Ronin's strong will, he would even consider admitting defeat at this moment. The lounge wasn't far from the arena. Moreover, it was unknown if it was intentional, but the soundproofing function of the lounge wasn't perfect at all. It allowed the gladiators in the lounge to clearly hear the cheers of the audience. After the referee in the arena announced the outcome of the introductory match, Rog and Ronan left the lounge at almost the same time and walked towards their respective gladiator passageways. The exciting introductory match is finally over. I believe that many of the audience can't wait any longer. Because the next battle is the ultimate goal of your coming here tonight. Although all of you can't wait any longer, as the referee and commentator of this battle, I still want to introduce the next two gladiators to everyone. First of all, let us use the most enthusiastic cheers to welcome this legendary ninja from a backward planet. He is the most powerful ninja in the universe, the fourth Hokage, Ro. Gu, the red-skinned middle-aged referee with delicately combed hair roared loudly in an extremely exaggerated tone. As his voice rang out, colorful fireworks soared into the sky, exploding into gorgeous patterns in the air. Rog! 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 Under the cheers of more than 100,000 spectators, Rog walked out of the gladiator passage step by step and went straight to the center of the arena. Rog, who was wearing the fourth Hokage Haori, waved at the surrounding audience. He then adjusted his state of mind, allowing himself to enter his best battle state. At the same time, the referee and commentator who advocated the roaring style began to introduce Rog's battle record. Defeat Luo Nan, the controller who attempted to invade Earth. 9 consecutive victories in the Land of Nothingness, 5 consecutive victories in Saga Planet's arena. Many of the names of the opponents that Roger could not even remember were named by the referee one by one. Along with his introduction, the spectators in the arena became more and more fanatical. When Rog's short list of battle records was finished, the fully armed controller Luo Nan also came to the arena amidst the cheers of the spectators. He stood about 20 meters away from Rog. Compared to Rog's battle record, Luo Nan's battle record was clearly much better. Of course, this was also related to the fact that Rog had always been active on Earth and did not show his face in the universe. If his battle record on Earth was included, not only would his battle record not be less than Luo Nan's, it would even be richer. Luo Nan, who was holding the universal weapon Warhammer, did not pay attention to the referee's introduction. His eyes were fixed on Rog as he spoke in a serious tone. Although I still don't understand why you insist on fighting me in the arena, I will let you know that your decision is very unwise. Is that so? I hope your next performance will prove your words. Luo Gu could see that Luo Nan had already roused himself to 120%. He was no longer the enemy who was filled with contempt and arrogance from before. This was an enemy who was completely serious. Very good. Very good. Only an enemy like this was worthy of him using the 8 inner hidden gates. When the referee's introduction was completely finished, the bell that represented the beginning of the battle rang. Rog and Luo Nan ran toward each other at the same time. 20 meters passed in the blink of an eye. The unarmed Rog and the Warhammer-wielding Luo Nan were facing each other head-on. Body technique, monstrous strength. The physical fitness of the Kree people was much stronger than that of the people on Earth. This was especially true for Luo Nan, who was an outstanding member of the Kree people. His physical fitness was far superior to that of the ordinary Kree people. So when Rog arrived in front of Luo Nan, he did not hesitate and immediately used monstrous strength. His right fist, wrapped in light blue chakra, was like a cannonball that shot out of the barrel as it attacked Luo Nan's chest. The warhammer in Luo Nan's hand also smashed toward Rog's head with the force of 10,000 pounds. Because they had already fought once, Rog and Luo Nan had a rough understanding of each other's tactics. Facing Luo Nan's thunderous hammer, Rog did not have any thoughts of dodging. Although his right fist had not yet hit Luo Nan, he was 100% sure that Luo Nan's warhammer would not fall on his head. In a flash, Rog's right fist hit Luo Nan's chest first. Energy shield. Rog's right fist seemed to have hit Luo Nan's chest, but in fact, it only hit the thin layer of energy shield on Luo Nan's chest. Although the energy shield condensed in an instant could not completely block Rog's attack, it could buy a little bit of time. Luo Nan did not condense the energy shield at the beginning because he wanted to let Rog's attack hit him first. In terms of speed, Luo Nan was far from being Rog's opponent. So in order to let Rog obediently enter his attack range, Luo Nan did not hesitate to use himself as bait. The black energy shield instantly shattered and Rog's right fist finally hit Luo Nan's chest. But all of this was within Luo Nan's plan. With the energy shield and armor, Luo Nan smoothly took on Rog's monstrous strength fist. And the warhammer in his hand finally arrived above Rog's head. Although Luo Nan's warhammer was about to smash his head, Rog did not panic in the slightest. Although the warhammer's attack speed was fast, if he wanted to dodge, it would not be too difficult. As long as he was willing to use ninjutsu, he had several methods to instantly escape. But right now, he had no plans to use ninjutsu at all. Sometimes, physical techniques can also do things that ninjutsu can do. First gate, open. Open. The massive amount of chakra in Rog's body instantly erupted. The restriction set by the consciousness of his brain was instantly broken. Chapter 359. The body's self-restriction hidden in the depths of his consciousness disappeared. Rog felt a mystical feeling of his entire body coming alive. Every living being's body contained an unimaginable amount of power. However, for the sake of a better life, this power was deeply sealed away by the instinctive self-protection consciousness. This seal was both a type of protection and a type of restriction. In many urban legends, there were cases of ordinary people instantly erupting with extraordinary strength. For example, in order to save his grandson from being crushed under a heavy truck, there was an old man who lifted a truck weighing dozens of tons with his bare hands. For example, in order to catch his daughter falling from a tall building, there was a father who ran over 100 meters in a few seconds. These cases seemed to be fantastical, but they were all real-life cases. To explain it in more scientific terms, the people involved in these cases were all super-living beings who instantly activated a limiter. A limiter was an innate limit to the growth of every living being. In order to allow life to grow without losing its self-consciousness and rationality, life had set a limit for itself, which meant that it had set a limit for itself. However, the limit brought by this limiter wasn't indestructible. With enough emotional support and extreme external stimulation, this limiter could be opened artificially. The only thing to note was that if one didn't have a strong enough body to support it, once the limiter was opened, it would mean the arrival of death. In a sense, the 8 inner hidden gates was a way to open a limiter. However, compared to other methods, the 8 inner hidden gates was a bit more gentle. Only when all 8 gates were opened would it directly endanger the user's life. When Rog used a massive amount of chakra to break through the limiter set by his mind, he obtained full control of his body for the first time. Rog's body suddenly erupted with a strange phenomenon, immediately attracting Luo Nan's attention. However, the current him was already too late to do anything to stop or resist. The warhammer fell like lightning, but it directly missed. Rog, who was close at hand, fell down in a way that didn't conform to common sense. His right leg kicked towards Luo Nan's chin. Shadow dancing leaf. Luo Nan, who didn't have time to retract his warhammer, was kicked in the chin by Rog's 42-yard-long leg. The enormous force directly sent him flying. Luo Nan never thought that his first exchange with Rog would end up like this. Although Luo Nan felt a burst of pain from Rog's kick to his chin, he didn't take this pain to heart. This was definitely not Rog's ultimate move. He would never choose such an ordinary move to end his attack. Luo Nan, who had already suffered a loss once, didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. His body hadn't yet fallen under the influence of gravity, but he had already begun to search everywhere for traces of Rog. "Are you looking for me?" Just when Luo Nan was planning to turn his head to look for Rog's tracks, Rog's voice suddenly rang out from behind him. "Not good." Although Luo Nan didn't know what Rog wanted to do, he was certain that Rog was going to be in great danger. Luo Nan suddenly gripped his warhammer with both hands, attempting to cover himself with an energy shield. However, it was all too late. When Rog arrived behind Luo Nan, the white bandages wrapped around his hands began to flutter under the control of chakra. In the blink of an eye, the fluttering white bandages were like two white pythons that wrapped around Luo Nan's body. First, open the door, lotus flower. Rog's voice once again rang out from behind Luo Nan. At the same time, chakra gushed out from Rog's body, constantly disrupting the energy bursting out from the warhammer. Since he had already unleashed his move to this stage, Rog wouldn't let the energy shield created by the warhammer ruin his good deed. The more than 100,000 spectators in the spectator stands were puzzled as they watched the scene in the sky above the arena. Due to the difference in strength, not many spectators were able to clearly see the situation of Rog and Luo Nan's exchange. In the eyes of the majority of the spectators, they only saw Rog kick Luo Nan flying. Then he used bandages to bind Luo Nan. Finally, he hugged Luo Nan, who had lost all ability to resist like a mummy, and madly spun Luo Nan's head downwards. Was this an offensive move from the backward civilization of Earth? It looked a bit shameful. No matter which planet it was, an adult male creature hugging another adult male creature in public was not a mainstream culture. Simply put, it was a bit of an eyesore. However, the spectators in the audience seats quickly understood why Rog did this. The madly spinning Rog and Luo Nan only stayed in the air for a short 1 or 2 seconds. Then, in a suicidal manner, they fiercely crashed into the ground of the arena. Boom! Unlike the metal walls surrounding the arena, the ground of the arena was a very ordinary dirt floor. However, when the lotus flower crashed into the ground, a sound that was even more terrifying than the metal floor exploded out from the impact. If it wasn't for the fact that firearms and artillery shells were prohibited in the arena, the spectators in the arena would have suspected that a large bomb had exploded in front of them. The terrifying impact of the lotus flower formed a deep circular pit with a diameter of more than 10 meters in the arena. Cracks that were more than 10 to 20 centimeters thick appeared on the originally flat ground. They covered the entire arena like a spider web. The invisible shockwave hit the metal walls around the arena like a wave. The grayish-yellow dust and gravel danced in the air, completely covering the entire arena. After the terrifying impact, there was a dead silence. The more than 100,000 spectators in the audience seats seemed to have been pressed on the mute button at the same time. They looked at the arena in disbelief. They looked at the arena that was completely covered in dust. Was this the ninja's way of attacking? This was too, although there were many gladiators who could create such a commotion in the arena, there was no one who could perform such a suicidal attack at the beginning of the battle like Rog. Luo Nan crashed into the ground with his head down like a tornado. Just thinking about this kind of attack in one's mind was enough to make people gasp. Although these spectators didn't know what Rog's move was called, they knew that from now on, they had completely fallen in love with this violent and bloody move. This was the scene that a gladiator should have. This was the momentum that a gladiator should have. This was a life and death battle that could make people's blood boil. Ah! Beautifully done. Rog. 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 The dust in the arena hadn't dispersed yet. The figures of Rog and Luo Nan hadn't appeared yet, but the enthusiasm of the spectators had completely exploded. Hashiman Tonku, First Gate, Lotus Flower, made its debut in the arena of Saga planet. Chapter 360. Not to mention the audience, even Rog himself had completely underestimated the power of the Outer Lotus. The Outer Lotus wasn't a particularly difficult move. Aside from the extremely high requirements for physical fitness, everything else was the same as an ordinary move. It was a move that could be perfectly imitated with a single glance from the Sharingan. However, such a move that didn't seem to have much technical content displayed a power that didn't lose to an attack-type ninjutsu. In some aspects, it was even stronger than a conventional attack-type ninjutsu. Hashiman Tonku is simply a divine technique tailor-made for ninjas like Kai Huang and Little Li. After fiercely greeting Luo Nan with the first outer lotus, Rog didn't immediately carry out the second wave of attacks. Instead, he patiently waited for the dust to disperse. Although the power of the outer lotus wasn't weak at all, it was still too naive to think that it could defeat Luo Nan. Moreover, after this exchange, Rog once again confirmed a fact that he had known for a long time. Most alien races had physiques that were far superior to the people of Earth. Even the Kree, a race that wasn't famous for their physiques, was the same. With the passage of time, the dust that covered the entire arena began to dissipate. Luo Nan's figure once again appeared in the audience's line of sight. Luo Nan was completely different from when he first appeared. It was as if he was a completely different person. Although his warhammer and armor were still there, and his body was still intact. But just by looking at his current appearance, one could tell how terrifying the outer lotus was. The specially prepared helmet was shattered into pieces. Cracks visible to the naked eye appeared on the sturdy armor after receiving the outer lotus and the outer lotus. Green blood flowed out from the corner of Luo Nan's mouth. The all-purpose warhammer was powerlessly held in his hand. If it wasn't for the armor and his superior physique that far surpassed that of ordinary Kree, Luo Nan would have been taken away by Rog's outer lotus. But even so, Luo Nan couldn't avoid the headache, nausea, dizziness, tinnitus, and other symptoms of a concussion. After personally experiencing the power of the outer lotus, Luo Nan finally understood why Rog wanted to fight with him again. To train the opponent, or in other words, test the target. The surrounding audience might not be able to see it, but Luo Nan, as the chief experiencer of the surface lotus flower, sensed the unfamiliarity of Rog's use of the surface lotus flower. This negligible unfamiliarity didn't affect the might of the lotus flower, but it allowed Luo Nan to understand Rog's true intentions. When Luo Nan was sent flying by Rog's shadow dancing leaf, he was still wondering why Rog didn't use ninjutsu. Now he knew the answer. Luo Nan did his best to calm his somewhat chaotic breathing and the various sensations of pain that came from his body. He walked out of this 1-meter-deep crater. No wonder you said that you definitely wouldn't use Tsukuyomi this time. So you had already planned all of this. There wasn't any anger in Luo Nan's tone. Though being treated as a test subject made him very unhappy, in the end, this was the problem of the difference in strength. If he was in Rog's position, he would do the same thing. Testing power in actual combat wasn't only done when testing weapons. It was also done when testing new moves. Especially those who had absolute confidence in their own strength. The more likely they were to do this. Your observational skills are pretty good. You understood faster than I expected. While speaking, Rog took off the remaining bandages wrapped around his hand and casually threw them to the side. These bandages were only useful when using the surface lotus flower. The remaining moves didn't need the bandages. What's the name of your fighting technique? This kind of powerful fighting technique should have a name worthy of its power. Hashiman Tonku. Compared to fighting techniques, ninjas prefer to call this attack method taijutsu. Rog directly told Luo Nan the name of the Hashiman Tonku. Oh right, the move I used to hit you just now is called Surface Lotus Flower. It's the move after opening the first gate of the Hashiman Tonku. Out of respect for the test subject, Rog also told Luo Nan the name of the Surface Lotus Flower. The first gate of the Hashiman Tonku? Although Luo Nan didn't know what the first gate of the Hashiman Tonku was, he didn't know what kind of effect the first gate of the Hashiman Tonku would bring. But as long as he thought about the name of the Hashiman Tonku, he could roughly speculate some things. Just opening the first gate of the Hashiman Tonku already had this kind of power. If the remaining 7 gates were opened, then this Hashiman Tonku, Luo Nan didn't dare to imagine the beautiful scene after all 8 gates of the Hashiman Tonku were opened. Don't worry. I just learned the Hashiman Tonka not long ago, so I haven't completely mastered it. You don't have to worry about what will happen after all 8 gates are opened. Looking at the ugly expression on Luo Nan's face, Rog accurately guessed his worries. Your Hashiman Tonku may be strong, but you won't be able to maintain it for long. I can sense that your physical strength is being consumed at a crazy rate. Luo Nan raised the warhammer in his hand and pointed it straight at Rog. Your observational skills are indeed worthy of praise. However, you've overlooked 2 things. At this time, Rog was like a teacher earnestly instructing a student. He silently extended 2 fingers and spoke neither fast nor slow. First, after opening the first gate of the Hashiman Tonku, my physical strength is indeed being consumed at a rapid rate. However, this kind of consumption won't have any effect on me for a short period of time. Rog didn't cultivate the immortal body for nothing. The immortal body didn't just bestow upon him a terrifying amount of chakra. The immortal body was a powerful special physique. How could it be lacking in the basic attributes of strength, speed, endurance, and so on? These basic attributes weren't the focus of the immortal body's enhancement, but this didn't mean that the immortal body didn't have this aspect of enhancement. Second, the second gate of the Hashiman Tonku, the gate of healing, can perfectly solve the situation of rapidly consuming physical strength. For example, like this. As soon as his voice fell, the aura on Rog's body changed once again. Second gate, gate of healing, open. It was different from the first gate of the Hashiman Tonku. The second gate of the Hashiman Tonku removed the limitations of the body's physical strength. Opening the first gate of the Hashiman Tonku was to overload the body's energy at the cost of obtaining an increase in strength and speed. But opening the second gate of the Hashiman Tonku was to overload the body's energy to restore physical strength, offsetting the exhaustion brought about by the energy consumption of the first gate of the Hashiman Tonku. In other words, after opening the second gate of the Hashiman Tonku, Rog was not only faster and stronger, but he could also last longer. A real man would never have a time limit of 5 seconds. This is the power of the second gate of the Hashiman Tonku. Can you feel it? Chapter 361. Looking at the playful expression on Rog's face, Luo Nan silently clenched the warhammer in his hand. His mood suddenly sank to the bottom. He originally planned to drag the fight into a long war of attrition, using time to wear down Rog's 8 inner hidden gates. But he never thought that the second gate of the 8 inner hidden gates, the gate of healing, would cause his plan to fail completely before it could be implemented. After returning to the Empire, he needed to have a good talk with Rothschild. Luo Nan silently made a decision in his heart. The universe was so big, no one knew how many powerful existences were hidden in the universe. If it was within the Kerry Empire's control, then it would be fine. But Rothschild was someone who couldn't stay idle. With his style of doing things, if he continued to be arrogant and despotic, then sooner or later he would provoke a powerful existence that he couldn't afford to provoke. Luo Nan spoiled Rothschild, so he hoped that Rothschild could live on safely and not die on some planet at such a young age. After the fight, this planet Earth will become famous in the universe. Of course, you will be the same. Luo Nan said to Rog in an incomparably serious manner as he threw all thoughts that had nothing to do with the fight to the back of his mind. Although Earth's technology wasn't very advanced, as long as Earth had an existence like Rog, then Earth's status in the universe wouldn't be low. Powerful existences could not only establish their own prestige in the universe, but they could also make their planet famous. No matter how backward the planet was, as long as there was a powerful existence on the planet, then the planet would become a high-level civilization in the universe. Although this didn't seem scientific, in the universe where strength was paramount, this was a rule that had been passed down for countless years. Although this will make me feel like I'm stepping on you, but to be honest, I'm looking forward to that scene. Don't worry, I won't kill you since you're doing your best to cooperate with me to test the 8 inner hidden gates. As soon as his voice fell, Rog disappeared. Although opening the second gate of healing could offset the exhaustion brought by opening the first gate. But there was always a time limit. The current Rog was overloading his body's energy. The instant Rog's figure disappeared, Luo Nan didn't hesitate at all. He immediately urged his warhammer to construct one energy shield after another around himself. Luo Nan's choice seemed a bit cowardly, but this was already the best choice he could make. Whether it was strength or speed, he was far inferior to Rog, who had opened the 8 inner hidden gates. If it weren't for the fact that he was still holding the useless weapon in his hand, he would have already admitted defeat. Pitch-black energy shields of various sizes continuously appeared all around Luo Nan. Soon after, they shattered like glass. Luo Nan was like a target right now, receiving attacks from all directions. After Rog opened the first door, the audience could no longer see him with their naked eyes. When he opened the second gate of healing, it was as if he had completely disappeared in the eyes of the audience. The pitch-black energy shields shattered one after another, and sonic booms rang out in the arena one after another. Although Rog's figure could not be seen at all, the audience's frenzied cheers did not weaken at all. Instead, they became more and more intense with the sound of the sonic boom. The third door, Life Gate, open. After crazily attacking Luo Nan like a Gatling gun for more than 10 seconds, Rog opened the final safe zone of the 8 inner hidden gates, the third gate. With the opening of the third gate of life, Rog's figure once again appeared in front of the audience. Although Luo Nan and the audience didn't know the effects of the third gate of life, the same thought appeared in their minds when they saw Rog's body turn completely red and emit green chakra. Rog had been strengthened once again. The opening of the third gate of life meant that Rog had met the minimum requirement to use the inner lotus. However, since he had already opened the third gate of life, he had no intention of using the inner lotus for the time being. The third gate of life was only the bottom line for Lian Hua to use. It did not necessarily have to be used at the third gate of life. What the third gate of life could fulfill, the fifth gate of limit could also fulfill, or even better. The fifth gate, Stop Gate, open. A few seconds after the third gate of life was opened, Rog took the opportunity to open the fifth gate of limit. Ah! An unimaginable amount of chakra gushed out from Rog's body. It was like a surging river after a dam burst, flowing through the chakra meridians in his body. If it wasn't for the immortal body that he inherited from Hashirama and the immortal body's development to a certain degree, the opening of the fifth gate of limit would have been enough to leave an invisible injury in Rog's body. Accuser Luo Nan, don't let me down. This was the first time Rog had opened the fifth gate of limit, so he wasn't too sure what kind of attack power he could unleash at this time. Although he had just said that he wouldn't kill Luo Nan, he couldn't be blamed if Luo Nan failed to live up to his expectations. Unlike the opening of the previous gates, Rog didn't dare to waste any time after opening the fifth gate of limit. He immediately attacked Luo Nan. Luo Nan could feel the changes in Rog and knew that his next attack would be even more terrifying than before. But he still could only stand in place and wait for Rog to take the initiative to attack. After Rog opened the second gate of healing, Luo Nan was unable to keep up with Rog's speed. And Rog, who had opened the fifth gate of limit, seemed to have disappeared into thin air from Luo Nan's perception. Right now, Luo Nan could only barely determine Rog's attack trajectory based on the ground that was stirred up by Rog's movements. There's only one chance. Steady. Don't panic. Don't panic by any means. Luo Nan, who had extremely rich combat experience, was like a new recruit that had just stepped onto the battlefield. He silently reminded himself in his heart. Although Luo Nan had already fallen into an absolutely disadvantageous situation, he still had a sliver of a chance to resist. A final chance to resist. Time Shift Domain. This was the most powerful killing move of the omnipotent Warhammer. It was also Luo Nan's only trump card. Speaking of which, it was quite ironic. Time Shift Domain was clearly a powerful killing move. But in front of Rog, this incomparably powerful killing move was reduced to a defensive skill every single time. It was like this before on the Kree warship, and now it was like this in the arena. Although this was only his second time fighting with Rog, Luo Nan discovered that he actually didn't have the upper hand even once. To the famous Supreme Manipulator, this was undoubtedly a sad piece of news. Luo Nan used Time Shift Domain as his final trump card. Of course, Rog was also on guard against this trump card of his. Having already experienced Time Shift Domain once, how could he possibly forget this trump card of Luo Nan's? The fifth gate of limit, Lotus Flower. After moving to the direction of his chosen attack, Rog used this ultimate body technique that he should have used at the third gate of life. Chapter 362. Gladiator Camp, Training Field. You need to be careful of attacks from behind and blind spots. Your body is your strength, but it is also your weakness. You need to remember this point. In this training field that was not much smaller than the gladiator arena, Rog was in the middle of giving Hulk a temporary special training. 3 days had already passed since his fight with Luo Nan. The result of the fight was easy to see. He won. Luo Nan wasn't able to block the lotus flower of his fifth gate, the gate of limit. Luo Nan ended the fight in a heavily injured state. Luo Nan didn't even have the time to use the Time Shift Domain under the terrifying amplification of the fifth gate, the gate of limit. Rog's lotus flower struck Luo Nan squarely in the chest. Then Luo Nan directly smashed through the metal wall of the gladiator arena, leaving the arena in defeat. Rog silently withdrew a bit of his strength the instant lotus flower struck Luo Nan's chest. He didn't let Luo Nan bear the full might of the lotus flower. The next morning, Luo Nan was taken away by Rothschild after finishing his emergency treatment. They took the Dark Star and left Saga planet. Luo Nan's departure didn't attract too much attention. Or it could be said that the residents of Saga City didn't care about the whereabouts of the loser. And at noon on the same day, the residents of Saga City received another piece of news that was enough to make them excited. The recently famous Destroyer of the World, Hulk, was going to fight against the top assassin with the title of the most dangerous woman in the universe, Gamora. And the time of the fight was tonight. This was also the reason why Rog was in the Gladiator Camp's training field today to give Hulk special training. On the surface, the difference in strength between Gamora and Hulk was like a heavenly moat. It was impossible for Gamora to be Hulk's opponent. But the problem was that Gamora wasn't a warrior like Hulk or Luo Nan. She was an assassin. A top-notch assassin with exquisite killing techniques and incomparably rich experience. Before Gamora obtained the title of the most dangerous woman in the universe, many people looked down on her. Even the targets of her assassination didn't take her assassination to heart. However, when Gamora officially started her career as an assassin, going around the universe to assassinate targets, people's evaluation of her became higher and higher. According to the latest news that Rog had received, since his debut, anyone who had been targeted by Gamora for assassination had all died without exception. Although Gamora's assassination method was different from what most people imagined, it was undeniable that her assassination success rate was 100% so far. In this aspect, Gamora was very similar to Rog. Both of them maintained a 100% success rate in their careers. However, one of them was an assassin, while the other was a ninja. In order to avoid Hulk's sudden failure, Rog had to let Hulk understand the fighting style of assassins and ninjas, which was completely different from that of warriors. Hulk is very strong. Hulk is not afraid of these attacks. Hulk, who was hit by Rog's blind spots one after another, did not take these attacks to heart. From his point of view, these attacks were no different from scratching an itch. However, this was exactly what Rog was worried about. Hulk was used to fighting head-on. Even if he encountered some blind assassins, his super physique would ensure that he would not be fatally injured. If it was a head-on battlefield, Hulk's approach would have no problem. But the problem was that the Colosseum was not a head-on battlefield, and Gamora was not a serious warrior. If it wasn't for the prohibition of firearms and other hot weapons in the Colosseum, as well as inhumane poison gas and biochemical attacks, Rogue was even certain that Gamora would have set up all kinds of deadly traps in the Colosseum. No, you should be afraid of these attacks. No matter how strong your body is, there are still many weak spots. For example, these places. As soon as he finished speaking, Roger circled behind Hulk and launched a combo attack on his ears and eyes while Hulk couldn't see him at all. Rogue didn't intend to completely blind or deafen Hulk, but even so, when he changed the attacking parts to the eyes and ears, Hulk still felt what is called the natural weakness of creatures. If it weren't for taking care of Hulk's dignity, Rogue wouldn't even mind letting him experience Konoha's secret taijutsu, Millennium Kill. It hurts. You hurt Hulk. He didn't know why, when Hulk, who was more than 2 meters tall and strong, suddenly said this sentence, Rogue felt that the style seemed to have become a bit wrong. Odama Rasengan. 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 In order to make this seemingly deviated style return to normal, Rogue's right hand condensed an Odama Rasengan with a diameter of 1 meter, and hit it hard on Hulk's thick and broad back. Boom! Hulk, who was rubbing his ears, had no time to make any defense. His whole body flew out like a baseball hit, and then fell heavily to the ground, raising a cloud of dust. If you don't get serious, you won't be able to eat anything from now until the start of the gladiator fight. To deal with Hulk, who was similar to a naughty child, sometimes it was necessary to use some seemingly childish behavior. After being warned by Rogue, Hulk reluctantly got up from the ground and continued the special training tailored for him by Rogue. Time passed little by little, and when night began to fall, Hulk finally ended this special training that was completely out of his fighting style. He enjoyed a super large dinner that was heavier than Rogue's weight. Ladies and gentlemen from different planets, I'm your most familiar old friend, Joe. Yes, tonight's high-profile individual battle will still be me as the commentator and referee. Now, let me see your excited hands. It was the middle-aged man who was responsible for commentating Rogue and Ronan. But this time, the audience at the scene was not willing to cooperate with him. After a somewhat awkward silence, the exaggerated Joey began to introduce the two gladiators in tonight's individual battle. Hulk was the first one to appear. When he arrived at the gladiator arena wearing a pair of elastic special shorts with a look of excitement, the originally dull gladiator arena instantly erupted into cheers. There was no need for Joey to introduce Hulk's battle record. Every audience knew it in their hearts. He was different from Luo Nan, the controller, who had already made a name for himself. Hulk only gradually made a name for himself after arriving on Saga planet. In other words, Hulk walked step by step under the gaze of the audience. After Hulk appeared on the stage, it was naturally the turn of his opponent tonight, Gamora. However, when Gamora, who was wearing a slim leather jacket, walked out of the gladiator tunnel, there was a burst of curses and boos in the arena. At this time, Rogue still booked a VIP box on the top floor of the arena. Unlike the crazy curses and boos of the audience, when Gamora walked out of the tunnel, Rogue's face showed an incomparably serious expression. The most dangerous woman in the universe, the top assassin, the cold-blooded butcher, the lackey of Thanos Overlord, the inhumane Zihu Bailey, Gamora had a lot of unpleasant nicknames, but what really made Rogue care was not these nicknames, but her status. In other words, her position in Thanos Overlord's heart. Chapter 363. On the surface, Gamora is just one of Thanos' adopted daughters, and she is his top assassin. This is the view of many people, and the other forces in the universe basically only know this. But Rogue is different. He is a traveler, and he knows a lot of things that others don't know. Perhaps even Gamora herself doesn't realize how important she is in Thanos' heart. Soul Gem, one of the 6 Infinity Stones, is the only Infinity Stone that needs to be obtained by sacrificing the soul of a loved one. Rog has always known where the Soul Gem is, but he has never thought about the Soul Gem. The reason is simple: he doesn't have a true love at all. And even if he has a so-called true love, he will never sacrifice the soul of his loved one to get the Soul Gem. Thanos can get the Soul Gem by sacrificing Gamora, which is enough to prove Gamora's position in Thanos' heart. In addition, Rog also remembered a particularly small detail, a small detail that even Gamora herself didn't notice. Gamora hates Thanos' flagship spaceship Temple 2 and everything on it. Especially in the second temple, the chair that represented the supreme power of Thanos. Thanos has always hoped that Gamora can inherit his position, and that Gamora can sit on this chair that represents power and status after himself. However, after Gamora expressed her refusal, Thanos did not force her once. Because Gamora doesn't like that chair, in front of Gamora, Thanos would rather sit on the stairs under the chair than make Gamora unhappy. Although this seemed a bit outrageous, Thanos Overlord really did it, and he did it very casually. Gamora may not be willing to admit that Thanos is her father, but Thanos really treats her as his own daughter. Compared with Nebula, who is also an adopted daughter, it can be seen how much Thanos favors Gamora. This is also the reason why Nebula has been hostile or jealous of Gamora before she completely woke up. Get your equipment ready, it may not be peaceful tonight. Rog, sitting on the sofa, silently reminded Natasha, Ant-Man Scott, and others. What's wrong? Is there something wrong? Natasha asked doubtfully. I don't know for the time being, but there's no harm in getting ready first. Although Rog doesn't know how Gamora fell into the hands of Gao Tianzuan, his intuition tells him that Thanos will never let his beloved adopted daughter become a slave gladiator for Gao Tianzuan and the residents of Saga Star. And as time passes, this feeling becomes more and more obvious. He even suspects that Thanos' men, or Thanos himself, are hidden in the audience below. Okay. Looking at Rog with a serious look on's face. The wine-red-haired Gamora arrived at the center of the arena amidst the boos and curses of the audience. She sized up her opponent for the night. Like Hulk's, Gamora's skins. But Hulk's SSSSS. SSS, SSSS, SSSSS. And because his opponent was Gamora, Hulk didn't plan to use any weapons in this battle. Hulk stood barehanded about 20 meters away from Gamora, his face serious as he looked at Gamora, whose waist was even smaller than his arms. Although he had been forced to undergo special training by Rog, Hulk still did not feel that Gamora could pose any threat to him. I can kill an opponent with such thin arms and legs with one punch. Hulk silently made a judgment in his heart. Although he thought so, Hulk did not intend to kill Gamora. Women would always receive some preferential treatment, especially beautiful women with curvy figures. In Hulk's opinion, Gamora, with her green skin and wine-red hair, was much more beautiful than the women on Earth. Gamora's green skin just happened to hit Hulk's aesthetic point. Hulk didn't know why, but after seeing Gamora, he suddenly thought of what Rog and Natasha had told him, the so-called gentlemanly demeanor. Hulk likes you. Hulk doesn't want to hurt you. Just admit defeat. After a few seconds of silence, Hulk suddenly said. You, like me? Hulk's sudden words made Gamora a little stunned. As a top assassin, and a female assassin, Gamora was very good at using her feminine advantages. She also knew what kind of charm she had. Gamora had heard a lot of disgusting or strange confessions, many of which she had heard from her assassination targets. But after hearing Hulk's words, especially after seeing Hulk's sincere expression without any lust, a strange feeling welled up in Gamora's heart. This big guy's mind is still underage, right? The audience in the auditorium originally thought that they would see a bloody battle tonight, but the development of things completely exceeded their expectations. Although they couldn't hear the conversation between Hulk and Gamora, they could see that Hulk had no intention to fight at all. Not only were the audience in the auditorium puzzled, but even Gao Tianzuan, who was sitting in his exclusive box, was also puzzled. This is not right, this is not the script's arrangement. Gao Tianzuan single-handedly planned tonight's battle script, but he now found that the plot he planned was already showing signs of collapse before it even began. No, it can't go on like this. The arena of Saga planet absolutely won't allow such a boring plot to play out. Gao Tianzuan waved his hand at the female guard Topaz next to him, wanting to take the scepter in Topaz's hand that looked like a candied hawthorn. The ruler of Saga planet, Gao Tianzuan, was going to take action himself. However, before Gao Tianzuan could take the unconventional scepter, a giant castle-like spaceship flew over the arena, covering the night sky like a black cloud. Sanctum number 2, this was Thanos Lord's flagship, Sanctum number 2. It really appeared. Looking up at Sanctum number 2 that covered the night sky, a smile appeared on Rog's face. Since Sanctum No. 2 was here, it was impossible for Thanos Lord, who was known as the Mad Titan, to be absent. Sure enough, when Sanctum number 2, which was far larger than other spaceships, arrived above the arena, a bright white transmission beam shot out from the bottom of Sanctum number 2, like a bridge of light descending from the sky to the middle of the arena. With the descent of the transmission beam, a huge figure more than 2 meters tall slowly walked out of the light beam. It was a simple yet intimidating set of armor that was blue and gold in color. The 2-meter-long double-edged broadsword still had lines of blood that had yet to solidify flowing down the broadsword. Purple skin, a round bald head, a giant vertical chin, a robust body, and an innate domineering aura. This was Thanos Lord, the Mad Titan Thanos Lord, the Thanos Lord known as the Emperor of the Universe. Thanos Lord had appeared in person. Chapter 364. For others, intervening in the battle before the outcome of the battle has been decided is a direct slap to the face of the ruler of Saga planet, Gao Tianzuan. But for Thanos Overlord, this slap is a slap in the face, there is no need to worry about it. Gao Tianzuan has an almost infinite lifespan, it is said that he also has a variety of powerful abilities, and is a member of the Universe Elders Council. Although not many people have seen Gao Tianzuan in action, from the fact that he built Saga planet and turned it into a gladiator planet that is not controlled by any civilization, one can know that he is more unfathomable than he looks on the surface. A person without much strength can't become the ruler of Saga planet, let alone build his own private kingdom here. Normal people wouldn't slap Gao Tianzuan's face in Saga planet, especially in the arena where more than 100,000 spectators gathered. But Thanos Overlord is not a normal person. If Thanos Overlord was a normal person, he wouldn't have come up with a crazy plan to destroy half of the life in the universe and carry it out. Natasha, if a fight breaks out later, the 3 of you go back to the hotel directly, I will take Hulk back. Since Thanos Overlord entered the arena, Rog's eyes have been focused on Thanos Overlord, and at the same time, he used chakra perception to perceive Thanos Overlord's situation. As he expected, he felt a powerful energy signal from Thanos Overlord's body. Although the strength of this energy signal is not as strong as Mephisto in Hell, nor as strong as Odin in Asgard, it is still amazing. Inferior Heavenly Father. The current Thanos Overlord is without a doubt an inferior Heavenly Father. Little Black, it's time to do something serious. As soon as Rog's voice fell, Little Black, who was standing next to Ant-Man Scott, showed a ferocious smile, and his figure instantly shrank, turning back into the pitch-black Northern Cold Blade form. Wearing the Northern Cold Blade on his belt, Rog directly disappeared from the box with the Flying Thunder God and came to Hulk's side. After knowing that Hulk's next opponent is Gamora, Rog quietly left the Flying Thor technique on Hulk, ready to support Hulk at any time. Hulk was strong, very strong, but Thanos was stronger. In Rog's memory, Thanos was the only one who defeated Hulk with a physical attack with his bare hands. Although Ancient One can also stun Hulk with a single palm strike, Ancient One used magic to push Hulk's soul out of his body, not in the real sense of knocking him down. Moreover, what Ancient One pushed out of the body at that time was not Hulk's soul, but Banner's soul. Gamora, come with me. After arriving at the arena, Thanos completely ignored Hulk, who was not far away, and ignored Rog, who had just arrived at the arena, and said softly to Gamora. If it weren't for the double-edged sword in Thanos Overlord's hand that was still dripping with blood, Thanos Overlord at this time looked like a kind old father. However, Gamora did not intend to cooperate with Thanos. After hearing Thanos' words, Gamora pulled out 2 slender scimitars from her back. These 2 scimitars were originally intended to be used by Gamora to deal with Hulk. Now, it had become a weapon against Thanos. Gamora replaced her answer with practical actions, making the gentle expression on Thanos' face disappear suddenly. Looking at his daughter who was facing him with a sword, Thanos Overlord didn't say anything. There was no anger, and he didn't even say anything in a heavy tone. After looking at Gamora silently for a few seconds without saying a word, Thanos Overlord finally retracted his gaze from Gamora and looked at Rog and Hulk who were not far away. Thanos Overlord's gaze only stayed on Hulk for a second or two before it swept away, and then it stopped on Rog, who was wearing casual clothes. In the eyes of the audience of Saga Planet, Hulk is the absolute king in the arena, and he is a well-deserved superstar in their hearts. However, in the eyes of Thanos Overlord, the current Hulk is just a warrior with a slightly decent strength. Compared with Hulk, Thanos Overlord obviously values Rog around Hulk more. Don't look at the current Rog only wearing ordinary black casual clothes, but Thanos Overlord saw a sense of déjà vu on Rog. In addition, Thanos Overlord also found that he seemed to have no way to immediately see through Rog's strength. This is an extremely rare situation for the battle-hardened and powerful Thanos Overlord. Young man, your strength is good. Are you interested in joining my side? After looking at Rog seriously, Thanos Overlord said to Rog. Sorry, I'm not interested for the time being. During the conversation, Rog came from Hulk's side to Hulk and protected Hulk behind him. Now is not the time to let Hulk confront Thanos Overlord one-on-one, and Rog does not want Hulk to have any psychological shadow. It's a pity, if you can join me, we may be able to become good friends. Thanos Overlord said with a little regret. At this time, Thanos Overlord's other adopted daughter, Nebula, and his 5 most powerful men, the 5 Black Radiance generals, also came out of the transmission beam and stood silently behind Thanos Overlord. Nebula's image was no different from Rog's memory. She was still a blue-skinned half-human half-machine. As for the 5 Black Radiance generals, according to Rog's evaluation, they were uglier than the other. Not to mention Ebony Throat, who was pale and didn't look like a good person. The head of the 5 Black Radiance generals, the Death Blade general with a sickle-like long blade, and his lover, Proxima Centauri, were also not in line with Rog's aesthetic at all. As for Black Short Star, who was taller than Hulk and had the strongest defense among the 5 Black Radiance generals, as well as the universe-level scout supergiant, whom Roger had never seen before, who was wearing a white battle suit, they had nothing to do with being good-looking. Thanos Overlord, Nebula, and the 5 Black Radiance generals, although there were only 7 of them, when they appeared in the arena, the audience in the auditorium, without exception, felt a powerful oppressive force, an oppressive force that seemed to come from the depths of their souls. Whether it was Thanos Overlord, Nebula, or the 5 Black Radiance generals, they were all bloody butchers whose hands were stained with blood. Furthermore, they were different from the other butchers who had killed tens or hundreds of people. The number of people they had killed was much higher. At the very least, it was tens or hundreds of times more. For a super fierce person like Thanos Overlord, his killing unit was calculated in planets. Slaughtering an entire civilization or planet, for others, was just a description. But for Thanos Overlord, it was a real bloody record. Of course, under normal circumstances, Thanos Overlord would kill half of them and leave the other half alive. He didn't often do things like completely slaughtering the life of an entire planet. It's fine if we become friends, but if you know what I'm planning, you'll want to skin me alive and pull my tendons out. You're tuning into the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.